I'm only funny. You guys put a smile on your face.
Well,
Absolutely.
Present.
What do you think I do in school? I bring them on.
The podium.
Yeah.
My.
Wait, I'm gonna put it up.
Was that-
Taller than me. Yeah, the more. That's not a new meeting.
You start on.
That's
Three.
You ready, Nick?
We're ready. So don't try to say sheriff. Okay, but where did it go? Right there.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
We're good?
We're good.
You got it. Over a drink or something. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the town of North Elba Town Board, I'd like to call this meeting to order and please rise for the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, we've got a couple of great presentations tonight. Tonight, we're gonna start with John Riley. He heads up our black fly control program. He'll talk to you about BTI, the chemical we use, and all the aspects of the program.
Thanks, Derek.
I can be your clicker if you want.
It's probably easier for me to do it. Something I don't want to go through really quick.
Besides, he carries a stick.
So this is our 30th anniversary, in Black Fly. I started, the second year. And then started running the program in 2006. It's been quite an adventure, so. I know you can't see this now, but if you want to check it out later, I'll just leave it up here tonight. This is our treatment area. The westerly part is near Crumb Pond. And then it goes up to Mackenzie Pond, up over Moose and Mackenzie Mountain. Basically, it's pretty much the whole watershed for Lake Placid Lake. And then we go into the Sentinels. And then down to past Van Hovenberg out where the South Meadow Sugar Works are. And then South Raybrook, we go out up into Scarface Mountain, and then on this map, it's not on here, but we also added some of the headwaters of the Chub that are off the Northville Classic Trail that are down here.
And John, I say what's important to know about the map is that you're always within the town of North Elba.
We are not. There's a little bit of St. Armand.
Okay.
Which I think we have. Yeah, people are happy that it's just. Right out.
I love that, but I didn't expect you to say that.
A little bit of St. I'm sure he's talking the same. So, yeah, we have permission.
Okay.
Or it's on state land. So,
So it's up the lake, I'm assuming is where you're crossing into St. Armand.
yeah, it's just a little chunk right here. And right here. And that's St. Armand here.
Okay.
So I put together a very short PowerPoint. I know you have some other stuff that you're dealing with this evening, but I don't know what people know, so I just wanted to kind of go over the basics. The control program, really, it should be called the suppression program. That's what the pros call it, but maybe someday we'll change it. I don't know. After we send out landowner letters to people to get permission to go on their property, the state, we already have permission. And most of the landowners are agreeable with it. So after we get permission, this might not be this will work. Could I go back, Jason, to where I started? I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's down here, down below, down on the left. There was two power plants.
Yeah, I wanted to go on the one that was 3.
That would you select.
So can I get back to that, or I can just use this
Yeah,
one?
if you go back to the folder, right? Jason?
Yeah. Or,
If you look at recent in the middle, the. Oh,
so button you did select, that's the one that's.
That was the.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, this isn't, I'm just gonna go through some of the slides quicker than others because this is for training and I just kind of picked some out, but this was one of them. The life cycle, they start out as eggs. And the eggs are pretty much microscopic, you can't really see them. So a female will lay anywhere from 200 to 600 eggs, one female. They start to develop into larvae, they go through these different phases. So our job is to catch them before they get out of this phase and they turn into pupa. Once they pupate, they stop feeding, so they won't take in any BTI. So generally, this is important because when we get to the streams, we're finding larvae, we're not finding pupa. There's some dams where we might get like 95% kill, and some of them might pupate, but generally, we get 100% kill. Then the pupa hatch into adults. The males don't bite, they basically feed on nectar, and the females are the ones that go for blood, they need blood to make the eggs, start the whole cycle all over again. Well, they that volume too. And I turned the volume down because I gotta use the bathroom. So these are blowing up, they don't look this big, but they attach themselves with a little silk pad to a substrate like a rock or a stick. And then their heads, this would be downstream, their heads face downstream. And they're very easy to find. You can kind of see their rear ends are bigger than their heads, so those are the fatter parts, and then the water's flowing this way. So they hang out downstream and they filter feed whatever comes through the stream. So when we put in BTI, they eat that. Their guts are not like ours are acidic, theirs are basic. And there's a protein crystal in the BTI that's slightly acidic. Acidic enough that it makes their guts basically explode within 24 hours. That is that's from one of the dams by Holcomb Pond, so you can see the abundance of them. Once you pull them out of the stream, they curl up into like a horseshoe shape. But that's about as far as you can kind of get an idea how many are out there. And they're easy to find. If you're ever walking along a stream, they're fun to kind of look for. So this is a blow up, and then this is an electron microscope blow up. They filter feed by these, they call them lateral fans or cephalic fans. So they basically, they catch whatever is coming down and then they bring that into their mouth and then eat the BTI or whatever else is floating downstream. So when I went to find a photo of cephalic fans, I found this band called Cephalic Carnage. And these are also cephalic fans, but a totally different thing. This I wasn't going to show you, but this was 2014. We had a really bad year. You thought this year was bad. This was one of the guys was up at Bartlett Pond. And this was right at Whiteface Inn. I don't know if that's going to play, but that's okay. So BTI is a natural occurring soil bacteria. It was discovered in Israel. That's what the I is from. And they found a puddle basically with a bunch of dead mosquito larvae in it, and they analyzed it and made it commercially viable. And it was first registered by the EPA in '83. So that's what we use. It's non-toxic to humans, beneficial insects, mammals, birds, fish, plants. It's species specific. So when I go to treat a stream, I go and look at it the next day. All the mayflies, the stoneflies, everything else is alive and kicking. And the black flies are dead as doornails. They look like bowling pins, we call them. They're just all lined up. When you pick them up out of the stream, they don't curl up anymore. There's no water use restrictions, which mean basically when we treat a stream, that water can be used for whatever that water would be used for. So if somebody has a camp that they use as drinking water, they can still use it. Your dog can drink out of it. It's pretty safe. So this is a product that we use, Vectovac 12AS. It comes in 2.5 gallon containers. We use about 50 gallons to 60 gallons a year. So the first study was in Onchiota. They did a feasibility study, in Onchi, and they took a 2 mile radius around the town to treat. And the idea is, and this is kind of important, so 2 mile is the minimum radius that the DEC will allow somebody to have a program. They think if it's smaller than that, it'd be totally ineffective. And that's based on them saying that a black fly can fly 2 miles unaided, so without wind. But we find out that's not necessarily true. Whoops. So field work starts off, we used to have snow at the beginning of the season, now we don't much more. We have a lot of blowdown sometimes, there's a stream that goes through here, you gotta, you walk every foot of the stream, so whatever's in your way, you gotta get through it somehow. This was some blowdown up by Loch Bonnie a couple of years ago where like a 20-minute bushwhack from stream to the trail took about an hour and a half. It was just a total, that used to be a complete shady forest of spruce and balsam. It was a total,
And when you do that, do you have, how do you administer it into the streams?
so generally, I'll get to that a little bit.
Oh,
We do a measurement first and then we dilute whatever amount we're using in stream water. And then you apply that. So like every 100 yards, you might put something in, but at another 100 yards, put that in. And then on really small streams, we use like a little hand sprayer. And it administers like 1/10 of a milliliter per yard. So you just like basically every step you're spraying in the stream on the real small ones. So the technicians get issued snowshoes, but we haven't used them in the last 3 years. They get a pack, field book and calculator. This is the product we carry. Generally, I carry a quart, which is great. It's not that heavy. If we're treating the Ausable or something bigger, you might have to carry a gallon or two. So and they also have a really good first aid kit in there. Because we all work solo, so if you get in trouble, we have everybody check out at 4 o'clock, but basically. If you don't have cell service and you go down, no one's gonna start looking to you till 4 o'clock, but I don't let people work till after 4. Just for that reason, so it gives us time. We've never had any real incidents of
Jeez.
that won't play.
Why isn't it playing?
You need the media on the same.
Okay.
On the same file. So.
No big deal. So this just showed. It's really just a really easy way to find larvae anyway. It's just they're on leaf dams and rocks. So to measure the stream, we measure the width. You can see a string going across here. He's got a depth measurement that he's doing, and then what we do is we measure the velocity. Calculate all that, and it tells us how much product to put in and how often on the stream. And then we double check all the calculations and then treat, and then all the record keeping, we keep all the records upstairs. And then this report goes into the DEC. And that on the slideshow is pretty much all that I was gonna go through. The rest is DEC regulations and stuff, which is more boring than what you just got through. So,
What's the total? Is it 90 square miles we take care of?
it was, but we added a little bit, like the headwaters of the Chub, so it's about 100 now.
Yeah.
So, Derek wanted me to talk about why we had some flies this year and what we might do in the future to try to handle it better. When I showed you the pupa and the larva, basically my technicians and myself, when we get to streams, first round, this is all larvae. Second round, we're getting there before the larvae even are ready, and we have to keep searching for a while. So we've had a really good crew, and we're not behind in our treatment. So some of them will always miss a few, and you'll always have a few flies around. But I think what we're seeing is changes in weather. It's warmer, the weather's warmer and the winds are stronger, basically. So I went to a blackfly conference in 2017 in Pennsylvania, and they have a program there that they're pretty much the pros in America. So I called this guy, Doug Orr, that I met, and I asked him how it was going, and he said it's been a really challenging spring. And he said basically it's the same thing with them. It's the warmer warmer weather, an abundance of flies. And their problem is they can't start treating until the Susquehanna River is under 300,000 cubic feet per second. So it's just, they have to wait for that to happen. For us, we have to wait for the streams to thaw. So this year I wanted to get a jump on it, started in mid-March, and then the streams froze up again. Plus, we only have so many people available because they're working their other jobs, so we can't really say, come work for us mid-March, and then say, oh, the streams are frozen, go back to your other job, you know? So that's gonna be difficult in the future, I think, to try to get a jump on it as early as possible, in the winter.
So you're saying staffing, timing of staffing.
Staffing, so, you know, there's one guy who's retired, he helped me out, there was someone else that wasn't working and they helped me, but most other people had a full-time job. You know, might be able
But
to.
John, explain the duration of a hatch, because there's a number of hatches. You know, if we were to miss the first hatch, it would equate to what, 8 to 12 days or something like that.
Well, so the adults live for 2 to 3 weeks. Right, so if you were to miss a hatch, generally you'd see flies around for 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay,
And that's why, and again, this is just my thinking, my hypothesis, that when we see flies around for 4 or 5 days, there's a possibility they're not from this area because they're only lasting 4 or 5 days and not 2 or 3 weeks.
Yep.
I don't know, we don't have ID tags on them.
They live somewhere else for the first 10 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would help if outlying communities also did
It
this.
would help if outlying communities did.
Saranac?
So Saranac Lake, especially because it's to the west.
Well, that's where the
That's
wind comes from.
Well, mostly from the west,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
just
Saranac Lake,
prevailing winds, a lot of it is up. The other side of Moose and Mackenzie, there's a lot of streams here that are just. I tried dropping down the other side and trying to go to these streams, and the balsam and spruce are so thick. You can't even see your feet,
okay,
so it's not really feasible, well, for a lot of reasons, it's not feasible to expand the program, but that's one of them. But so this has always been a weak spot, right, because this is my 2 mile. buffer. So from Whiteface in, if any of you golf, usually you probably go to the other 2 golf courses and not Whiteface in during blacklight season. So this is just about 2 miles from the border. So that's why they're often a lot worse there. But I checked into this 2 mile thing and I looked, and our friends in Maine. For University of Maine, they say that black flies with winds can fly 10 miles. University of New Hampshire, they say 7 miles. University of Minnesota says 10 miles further with wind. And Illinois Department of Health says 10 miles. Well, although it's rare, so this is 8 miles. And that's pretty much the whole treatment area. You know?
yeah,
You know,
so
so they're
That's what we're up
they're
against.
immigrants.
they're, you know.
maybe not the best now, but
Oh, in Africa, they can go 40 miles.
yeah, then again, we'll just double down. So. So Saranac Lake, and this is more of a sort of a perspective here in North Elba. Does Saranac Lake have a program in place?
They do not, and they never have, and I think, I remember speaking to somebody about it, and I think,
So that's
Part of the
part of
problem-
Saranac Lake and the town of Harrietstown do not have a
and
program.
I think part of the problem is, right, there's Harrietstown, St. Armand. Right, there's like 3 towns along Saranac Lake, so for them to organize, I mean, they could do it.
No, we do, we have the village and the town. I'm just, well, to say.
The village doesn't contribute anything to
So
black
I-
fly program.
I'm thinking that maybe in order to kind of alleviate some of our concerns, that maybe we engage in more of a collaborative process with Saranac Lake, the village of Saranac Lake and Harrietstown, if your hypothesis, your theory is saying that if we do treat and we kind of mitigate some of ours, that we do have some transport from the westerly direction, that if we collaborate with Saranac Lake, it might minimize their experience and our experience.
They should
Yeah,
write a
it
lead
should.
grant for that.
It should. The thing is, the area I'm talking about on the other side of Moose and Mackenzie Mountain.
The
I wouldn't,
watershed is so huge.
I
over
wouldn't
there.
go in there and I wouldn't send anyone in there. Because we've been really lucky not to have any injuries and not have any, you know, I can't really tell you what it's like bushwhacking around here.
I
But there's,
can, I hunted it for
yeah,
years.
there's a lot of potential for injury. And again, we're solo, so to have somebody on the backside of Moose and Mackenzie Mountain, I don't know if people could do it.
Well, that's just one section I'm thinking. We're gonna watch.
That's the most-
down here, like, you're over here too.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of the most vulnerable is Moose and Mackenzie.
Okay, because there's the inability to treat. I'm just trying
I
to
think
there's
so,
water.
yeah,
And that's where your streams are.
yeah,
there are a lot of
Just for
streams.
comparison, John and I have talked a number of times on this black fly issue. And my camp is between Tupper Lake and Long Lake. And the difference between this area, we're frustrated on a few days with black flies. Over there, they're so bad you can't open your eyes.
Well-
So it is tremendously different. So your idea about this is really a suppression program and not a control program has a lot of validity.
Yeah,
We're suppressing them.
that's what they call it in Pennsylvania, and those
Yeah.
guys are the pros, so.
and I know that, I guess I'm just echoing the sense that we can be as collaborative, because there is sort of a standard set. And I understand that climate change is going to impact, and the timing is gonna be a little bit trickier with staffing, but they have been more intense the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do within our own, and it's just, I'm sure we've trusted, you've done such an amazing job over decades. So it's just, how do we adjust moving forward if we do have to communicate with another surrounding communities or some sort of adjustment?
Yeah,
If this is the new norm, then we need to communicate that to the public to say, the golden age of black fly suppression has come to a close.
Well,
You know,
and we don't really know that, right? Like it's, the weather's so hard, we don't know what's gonna happen next
Sure.
year.
if it keeps
So-
up, we can use our toboggan chute employees to get up there and March first.
yeah, but I'm just saying is that like to the
As-
public, yeah. You can
As
say that
streets
we're,
freeze over, like you said, it
Oh, yeah.
slows down their metamorphosis. So we're still at the mercy of their changing phases.
Yeah, and they basically over a mild winter, they kind of get primed to hatch, so cause larvae do overwinter. So instead of just staying completely dormant, they're really, really ready once springtime comes, you know?
okay, yeah.
So I think what we can do now, the only thing that I really think is doable is trying to get out there as early as possible. And then as far as other employees, it's difficult to get people certified. It's a long process and it costs $450 plus $60 for the exam. And that's only for 3 years after we pay that, so.
Yeah.
So that's the expense that as a board, we would have to incur, and then the public would have to understand that we're making an investment in the quality of life. And then we'd have to make that a priority, from what I understand, in order to give you the assets you need to be able to manage the situation the way you need.
Yeah. And then as far, and the other problem, with expanding the program is this year, we didn't think we were gonna have a crew.
No,
And then 3 people that said they weren't gonna returned. And Nick Salini, somebody who did this 20 years ago, came out of the blue and said, I can help you out a couple days a week.
Craig,
And then Craig Wright came back, he came back like part-time, but so. We were lucky to have a crew this year, but I think it's getting harder to find people too. It's a short season and it ends mid-July, so then you're out of a job. So it's kind of hard to find people.
John, we appreciate you
Yes.
coming to give a presentation.
No problem.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try to do one once a year or something, or just open it to the public, if they want to have an open house.
I think it'd be great,
I think
just
there's just a lot of misinformation that's out there,
for sure.
you know.
You could also use it as a recruiting tool, to do it at like January, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, you feel like walking in the woods and spraying some BTI.
Yeah, I'm just showing photos of springtime.
Yeah.
And we have a new reporter with us tonight that's gonna help us find some new employees.
Okay, good. He's young, sign him up.
Many thanks, John.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you
thanks.
very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, John.
I'll just leave that up there if anybody wants to look at it, and these are the maps that
John, that's.
we take out, thank you, into the field. That's
Good
great,
deal.
you might like that, because that's your area, so.
Thank you very much.
So
You can go ahead.
you got that,
Yeah,
okay,
you can.
great.
Before we move on to leaf presentations, I'd like a motion to approve the minutes from our board meeting on May 14th.
So,
Moved by Rick, second by Jason. Any further comment? All in favor? Aye. Carried. Thank you. Nick, it's our pleasure to welcome you back from vacation and bring us through
Okay. Members of the committee of the LEAP committee, which many of you know, work the LEAP program, et cetera. Thought it would be a good time, this time, we're in our 7th round, we just finished. And to come to our meeting and explain a little bit of, we'll be brief, about how we came to LEAP. Back in June of 2020, the Essex County Board of Supervisors approved a 2% occupancy tax. And those funds became the CTEF, which is the Community Tourism Enhancement Fund. Of that 2%, certain amount, which is the majority, is designated to give out to the communities. And in North Elba, we created what we refer to now as the North Elba LEAP, which is the local enhancement, local enhancement and advancement fund. The funds are for nonprofits, local governments, and public sector organizations that serve the town of North Elba community. Our mission statement, which I won't go much further, is to provide funds for programs, activities, and facilities that will have direct benefit to our communities and improve the quality of place for both residents and visitors. And like I said, our first round was in spring of 2021. We do 2 rounds a year, so obviously we just finished round 7. Over the years, and I want to say that the LEAP committee, we meet at least twice a year. Sometimes we meet each round more than once. But now we've got we have an excellent group that we can get it done usually in one meeting, one day. It's a very good group, which you will meet some of them here shortly. And what we do is, first of all, I want to point out one person in particular. Ruth assists us with the administration, the taking in of the grants, application and everything. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight, but one of MJ's assistants is Kristen Strack, and she comprises all this, keeps us on track. If we get a grant application that doesn't fulfill our criteria, she lets them know, I'm sorry. She composes everything for us. She puts it on Google Sheets. We have all this information. So when we arrive for our meetings, we got it all, so we can get to work. So I want to just point out that Kristen is a valuable member of this unit. Up through this 7th round, we have recommended, well, I'm sorry, what I started to say was, what we do at the LEAP committee is we make recommendations to the town board of what we would like to see awarded to certain organizations, etc. And then it's up to the board to accept or deny the recommendations of the LEAP committee. To date, the total awards for those 7 rounds has been $4,090,984.57. I don't know where the 57 cents came from, but I wasn't going to look it up. Kristen gave me that number. And I just want, over time, I can't even give you the number of grants that is, didn't look it up. But I want to point out some of the top grants we've done, like the top 5. The top 2 grants individually went to the Essex County Industrial Development Agency, the IDA. And those, obviously, it's a county organization, but all the funds were in each time targeted for North Elba, predominantly Main Street businesses. They all went to North Elba, and like the most recent one was a COVID-19 relief for small businesses in the town of North Elba with under 25 employees. And that was $225,000. And the previous one to that, which was another business assistance, one was $264,000. One we did technically outside of North Elba, but it affects the tourism of North Elba and the residents of North Elba was Mount Pisgah, and you read that in the paper. You know, last year, and they needed. Funds for their snowmaking pipes and hydrants, and so we gave them, excuse me, we gave them $175,000 toward that. And we had a big discussion on this, and it was discussed that because of the impact of tourism from North Elba on North Elba, and many of you all know people, residents of North Elba, that partake of the facilities over there. And a few years ago, well, not many years ago, a couple of years ago, for the Lake Placid Volunteer Ambulance Service, we recommended and did give them $147,000 for the purchase toward the purchase of a new ambulance. Sounds like a lot of money, but it wasn't that big of a piece. And just a couple more. And with the down on West Valley, the Fawn Valley affordable housing unit, we over four different rounds, we did give them a little over $600,000 for various parts, segments of getting that underway and completing it. And obviously keeping the price down to make it more affordable. And lastly, I'll go with the Lake Placid School District. We did contribute $100,000. And this was, a lot of this was during COVID and everything, to support families that in need in the community with their children, their students. So that kind of says what we did over time. And what I want to point out is that we are receiving, this time we are doing the fund, oh, I'm sorry. One thing I do want to point out, we do keep, as close as we can, we do keep a capital fund in reserve. And then we do carry over some smaller funds, but we do try to keep a $200,000 capital fund. So if something major comes along, and we do take emergency applications off cycle, but that's very rare. We do have something in reserve. What I'd like to mention, like to point out now is, it is a 10-member committee. And we have the same members that we started with, and like I said, we've become very good. I just want to point out some of the members that are here. I've seen you around. Andrew Milne is sitting right there. These are all members of the community. Some are, you'll see, are designated to be on it, and I'll identify those, but Andrew was asked to be on it, we did it. Val Rogers, back there. Catherine Bemis, sitting right there with a very happy child. And then we have the members appointed because of their affiliation. We have MJ Lawrence as part of Bruce. We have Jackie Kelly sitting way back there. She is the Village of Lake Placid representative, and myself, and I'm obviously the Town of North Elba representative. And I forgot the envelopes over here. Thank you, Rick. So we have, for the most recent round, we have the money, the checks. And so I'm gonna identify the organization, and I'll ask you to come up to receive it. And if anybody would like to, if any of you would like to say something concerning your project or anything like that, obviously briefly, don't feel that you have to do it. I just giving you the opportunity. So who's ever here for the Northern Lights School? Oh, there we are. Okay, come on up. Come on up. Did you miss anything, or you don't have to?
Well, we are so grateful and appreciative of this grant that we are going to put towards renovating our heating system. And it's been an onerous past 3 years dealing with an antiquated old school building. And that was poorly routed from the beginning, and the control panel doesn't respond, so this will kick us on our way to moving towards hopefully a geothermal system that won't use fossil fuels. Thank you very, very much.
I think Brandon's here for Paul Smith College Adirondack Watershed Institute.
Sure, yeah, I would just express my gratitude towards Leaf and the town of North Elba. We've been on the receiving end of several awards over the years to address things like road salt, boat wakes on Lake Placid, and this is going to support our work to study harmful algal blooms, both here in the town and then more broadly in the Adirondack Park. So thank you very much for the support. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your efforts. And I know who's gonna get up for this, Lake Placid Volunteer Ambulance Service.
Well, it's gotta be me. Thank you, Dan.
You good? Wanna say something?
Yeah, we applied for this grant. We have noticed over the years that people that we're picking up are getting a lot bigger. A lot of our staff is really small and they just can't pick them up. So this is why we applied to get an airlift mattress, to help them out. So thank you.
And we, this is listed, got a couple of people that want to get up to this. This is for the Adirondack Foundation, which the funds will go toward, as you've seen in the paper many times, for the new food pantry and thrift store. So if two people would like to get up, they can.
Then those two should get up.
You wanna take that?
Wow.
Congratulations. All right.
Go ahead.
Well, it is a humbling process to watch this town come together the way it has to create a new and more intense future, I believe, for the food pantry and the thrift store. And we're really just excited to just see how we can serve our community better. And so thank you at so many levels for all the support that we're seeing for this new endeavor in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's about it. What I'd like to do is, because of the purpose of this get together and present, this is the first presentation we've done, as I've said. I would like everybody to see, I pointed them out, but those members of the Leaf Committee, could you come up for a minute? Just get a
Little photo.
photo up here. Yes, Jackie. They read about us in the paper, but
Our notes of any member.
that's the next generation right there. Hey. Like the meetings. Yeah, that's right, just got that.
History now.
Keep asking, you didn't even like the same thing. No. You're not gonna say something?
I know,
Yeah.
I'll say something,
Okay.
because I think that it's really important that we just take a moment to acknowledge, for a long time, when we, as the destination marketing and management organization, as the regional office of sustainable tourism, our focus was really, the majority of our focus was on bringing travelers into the region for the economic impact. And so over time, realizing that the true value of our destination is within the people that live here and the organizations that thrive. And in order to be a successful tourism destination, we needed to be a healthy community and have people thrive here and be happy to live here. And so that increase from 3% to 5% was an intentional strategic move to put money from the tourism industry back into our communities. And that Community Tourism Enhancement Fund, which we call the CTEF, because we have acronyms for everything, is all of Essex County. And so, as Dick said, portion of that is for the LEAF grants, but this really impacts all of our region. And so the goal is to use this money to enhance the community so that the people that live here can use those enhancements and enjoy a higher quality of life. And then secondary is the travelers get to enjoy it as well. So thank you for all your time and effort and support, and it's very exciting, so just wanted to throw that out, thank you.
And as I hinted to earlier, over the years, I've been on a few committees and I've been in organizations or whatever, but this group we have is a pleasure to work with as well as we work together. And, I want to thank everyone for that.
And Dick, I just would like to repeat what you said about Kristen and her role, because she does
Yes.
an
Oh my
amazing
God.
job, and because it's a lot of material to go through, and she gets it so well organized for us, and it's a big help.
Yeah, obviously, we have to do our homework. Thank you, Val. We have to do our homework before we get to these meetings, so we're prepared and everything. We spend X amount of time. If we didn't have Kristen doing her homework for us, we'd spend 10 times the amount of time trying to collect everything. So again, and I asked her to be here, but she said she had another obligation, but I just don't think she wanted to. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dick.
I believe the next round, we're gonna have big checks. Right?
Yeah, you got it, you got it.
Better than that.
Yeah.
I realize most of you came for this lead presentation, so don't feel like you have to sit there and go through the rest of the meeting. We won't be offended if you got other things to do. So we're gonna carry on with the rest of our town board meeting. Thank you, everyone.
But it's gonna be much more interesting than whatever you're gonna stream.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Jack.
Now they can know, that's perfect. Now you get the things of everything, it's not just emotion. but-
Yeah. Nick, I think this idea.
Yeah, it was.
Went on.
You already, we're just. Can you let him just have his moment? And we'll move on, well, ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Just let him have his moment.
Well, isn't it logical? We're going from lead to ARPA? So as you'll notice, the only item I have on here for consideration. You realize by this fall, we have to formalize our list. Now we're down to between $12,000 and $15,000 to allocate. What I want to put in front of you, and we don't have to do it tonight. But one aspect related to cameras that we anticipate that price, we've allocated $50,000 for that. But one aspect that we haven't tackled yet is the access or the carrier, whether it's Wi-Fi or fiber or whatever, is how to relay the.
We do appreciate it, that makes sense.
Is allocating up to $10,000 more to get Wi-Fi to our lacrosse fields.
For the purpose of
For the
cameras, not for use for consumer use.
Well, and it can double, because when we
Okay.
have good Wi-Fi up there, keep in mind that Summit Lacrosse just recently sold to Premier Lacrosse. Who backs and is more involved with the fact that lacrosse is gonna be an Olympic sport in 2028. I expect over the next couple of years, more exposure, probably not the time of year that we're used to when tournaments are. But there's a possibility, for maybe a training center or something like that in the off season, which eventually could lead to more exposure or even a relationship between the Olympic sport of lacrosse and Orta. I don't know, I'm just speculating down the road. My point is, I think it would be money well allocated to get Wi-Fi over there. And Dave Janito has come up with this basic proposal to go Wi-Fi from the highway garage. He'll get it from Liberty Hill down across the road to Highway, and then project to the fields.
My only question is, are we leaving anyone out? Like, if we're looking at the master plan of the showgrounds, like, are we bypassing the school? Like, does the school need, do you know what I mean? Like,
And
like, and I also don't know how Wi-Fi works. And I know you don't really know.
Well, we-
you know, you want, I tell you, I'm gonna change your seat.
But do you know what I mean? So like, if we're going back through the high school fields, is there
Right.
somewhere that we should be, that's Jason's question, like, what does it look like?
If it's down there on the road,
The
fiber
poles.
could be a lot easier to the showgrounds.
So I don't, without seeing the plan, I don't, because he and I had that conversation many years ago. I haven't seen the plan, so I'm not necessarily sure it's feasible, but it all depends on if you really want to have the conversation with the school. Because they don't own the poles, we can, but if they want to share in the cost.
If it warrants a further conversation on doing it at a different time, I'm game for that as well.
Yeah, so I don't,
I just think everyone down there would benefit from
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, and so if we're doing it, why not include everyone?
Because
you mean the baseball fields and everything?
Yeah.
Because that might be more expensive, depending on what the equipment that he has, and that may exceed what the budget initially, what Derek's thinking about. But that doesn't preclude it from happening, we all know spending habit, yeah. But it could be a more collaborative discussion, it depends on how encompassing you want it. I don't think it precludes any sort of an addition. It just, I could see that being an objective and then with additional discussion, bringing more on.
Because
But there are
the
some
lines will
technical-
the lines will already be going through there, so it's not that much of a difference to.
But they'll be split off.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's an isolated area, the fields.
And
Yeah,
I'd support it if we're looking at cameras to be part of it, just for communications. I'm a little hard pressed to.
There's other layers of.
it's
stuff.
primarily 4 cameras now, because he's talked to the electric
Yeah.
department for a pole to go in, kinda in between pickleball and the pump track
exactly. Yep.
with cameras
Right.
360 degrees to watch lacrosse, pickleball, beach volleyball. Whether we capture the whole pump track, I don't know, but at least parking lot and visibility. So that, you know, our website can carry what's going on there, like we intend to do with the cameras that are set up at Toboggan Chute.
Right.
But Rick, the other thing I'll add is like another reason for it is I'm assuming Summit or Premier Lacrosse is asking for it because their vendors want it.
Yes,
Well, that's,
Okay.
And so it's for their vendors and then also for them to be able to live stream their games.
that's what I,
And so
that's
it's
my
not
question.
just for, like,
Can we do
whatever
that?
happens up
And
there.
I'm okay with that too. I mean, they get so little from us, so to speak.
it's definitely twofold, media and
See, that's
communication.
what I beat me to it, was the fact that I'm thinking the cameras and streaming.
Yeah,
Because that's, I mean, particularly with the new owners. And depending what we can do out there for other sports, other uses or whatever, streaming could be a big thing.
Or the high school sports, that's why I was kind of.
Yeah, true, I mean, I'm saying the whole thing, the whole thing. Now,
Or
bandwidth.
Jason might T-ball team.
that's my question.
That's what I was thinking initially,
Yeah.
but I'm just, there's two different cameras, it requires a certain amount of bandwidth. That sort of other, like streaming video and having people on their devices, that's a whole nother,
And
that's a whole nother ballgame, so to speak.
Right.
So if David had that in mind with the end game, that may be more expensive, but it definitely could move us down that road.
Well, that's the point, I mean. The $10,000 for Wi-Fi service, what's that give us?
well, put it this
As far
way,
as for use,
if you're giving it serious consideration, next month, David will be at this meeting.
I think that's what we need to look at, because.
I'm not up for putting up a poster that says username, password.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maybe for like events, where you
Right.
could have like a changing sort of password.
Well, that's the
So,
thing,
you know,
because if we're going to bring in, you know, obviously, hopefully. PLL brings in other events in that sport, and even if we can bring in other sports, streaming is going to become a factor and vendor use. And I think, why should we go in? You know, partially to say, okay, we want our cameras. And why not go everything so we can do T-ball games too?
Yeah, that's a different bandwidth, but then there's a whole level of security that you would have to.
Well,
So
that's the
let's
thing,
invite him to July's. meeting.
yeah, we've got all these questions, yeah, I think
So
so.
I think it's a great idea anytime that you could provide access.
Yep.
Good deal. All right, let's move on to a resolution to accept real property transfer from Lake Placid School District. Should the vote be in our favor, June 24th, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna hand it to me.
I was, but
No, he's not.
After what you've already said earlier, he changed his mind.
And yes, as I tell her every time, please have to read it,
Yeah, well,
the whole.
yeah,
Hook on it.
whereas pursuant to May 8, 2024 resolution of the Board of Education of Lake Placid School District has agreed to transfer a parcel of real property it owns in the town of North Elba for the purposes of community benefit and public purpose for no monetary consideration. And whereas the transfer of the property is subject to approval by the voters of the Lake Placid School District, and whereas town law 6488 authorizes the town to take by gift, grant, bequest, or devise and hold real and personal property absolutely or in trust for any public use upon such terms or conditions as may be prescribed by the grantor or donor and accepted by said town, and provide for the proper administration of the same. Translation. Whereas the town board recognizes the potential benefits to the community that may result from the acceptance of this property. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of North Elba hereby accepts the gift of the parcel of real property from the Lake Placid School District for community benefit and public purpose for no monetary consideration. And be it further resolved that the town board is not dedicating the property for park purposes, and be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the appropriate town officials to take any and all necessary actions to effect the transfer and the acceptance of the property in accordance with the terms prescribed by the district and in accordance with the acceptable law and regulations adopted by the town of North Elba by the following roll call.
Need a roll call.
If you want to read it again, I'll do Google Translate.
Did you guys mention the property that it is, or like which piece of property is it?
That is not in the resolution.
No, it's not in the resolution, but it's at
It's 1.37 acres, which I just wrote somewhere else, and I don't have a map. It's next to Shipman U.
Got it. Cool.
It's where the basketball courts and everything used to be.
Okay.
Where they, that was.
Yeah.
Parking
awesome.
lot towards the
Yeah,
end.
that's what- yeah, and that
That-
big,
that- hopefully that area.
and into the.
That's where it is.
I'm gonna need a roll call vote to accept this resolution. And first I'll take a motion to accept the resolution. Dick, second. Rick, any further discussion? I need a roll call vote. Rick? Aye. Dick?
Right.
Jason? Aye. Emily? Aye, and I am an aye, so it's
Yes.
confirmed unanimous. Thank you. Next item up on the agenda is some further discussion on Hall of Fame that Emily brought to us a month or 2 months ago.
So Derek brought this up to me again a couple days ago, and I said, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that. And I think MJ left, but MJ and I, based on Derek reminded me about it being on the agenda, MJ and I had a great conversation today. Because my charge from the four of you, which was very constructive and well-founded, was to go, if you remember, the Hall of Fame committee was asking for $1,000 from Bruce, Town, Village, and Orta to help offset and bolster the Hall of Fame reception. So your charge to me was to go back to Roost and see what Roost is willing to offer, since it was a regional Hall of Fame, not just North Elba. And just to get Roost's idea on the marketing aspect of it, what they would pitch in. And so MJ and I had a great conversation today. Thinking about, maybe it's not just an induction, maybe it's something else. So, I'm not a marketer, we're not marketers. So even just having a half-hour conversation with MJ really led to some good thoughts about how we could kind of transform this just a little bit. So it's still about the induction, but also there's this other element that's attracting people to it. So from that conversation, MJ and I decided to meet with a village rep, a town rep, which would be myself. And Courtney Bastian, who's from the museum, who is our administrative liaison for the Hall of Fame committee. And a couple of staff members from Bruce to do marketing. And so we're gonna do that at the very beginning of next week. And at that point, so for the July meeting, I'll be able to come back to you with what Bruce plans are, or I shouldn't say plans, but what Bruce thoughts are, because then I will have to go back to the Hall of Fame committee and say, this is what Bruce thought of how they could boost their, attendance and also cut down on costs. And I don't think that Bruce will be making a monetary contribution, which is fine, because they have plenty of in-kind services that they can offer. And then I would be coming back to you with a different how to untask the money.
Time frame again?
I will have something for you by July.
Okay. I mean, when's the induction?
So
When's
the,
that?
so the,
November.
yeah, so the
Okay.
ceremony's in November, the letter that goes out to the public asking for nominations should go out next week.
Okay.
With a deadline, I believe, at the end of July.
Okay.
So that's like the upcoming timeframes.
Good.
Thanks.
Next item up is some discussion on a proposed cannabis tax revenue policy. As you'll all remember, we were approached for some funding, and it led to some discussion on some parameters or qualifications on how we'll dispense that money. There's been a great document created, certainly for us to talk about. I'm guessing you all had a chance to read it. And I'll, let's start some discussion on, how we consider accepting this based on, people that are looking for some revenues right now, and on what degree, all part or whatever of this policy you're all comfortable with. First, I think, I certainly owe a lot of thanks, certainly to Rick for, bringing all the different ideas together. I think ultimately, Jason, you started this issue, forwarded your thoughts, and Rick picked it up, so I'm thankful to both of you.
And Emily as well was able to get in, and like Rick was the kind of the network center, and like he implemented and integrated a lot of.
And creating a policy is no easy task, so I appreciate all the work into it.
Yeah, I know it's very lengthy in nature, but I think this type of policy which is directing funding, especially specific funding, such as cannabis money, needs to be specific. So my only question is Haley willing to be the recipient of the applications?
So I obviously, I will say that I have not had a sit down conversation with her about that, but through email and looping her in on the discussion. It's very obvious that was what I was intending.
Right, I did send her the application and the follow-up form, and she commented on them, so she didn't say, hey, get this off my laptop.
You
I don't think
did
she'll
what to me?
I don't think she'll say that either.
No, she would.
And so for the benefit of the board and the public, I think kind of the way that I approached it after Jason wrote the first draft was, well, this is similar to a funding source like CTEF because it's a very special funding source that's not our general tax base. And so let's treat it as this like special entity that it is and develop a policy. So because we have CTEF funds that are not LEAF funds, we have a process and we have a policy. And I asked Haley to share that with Jason and I, and Rick, so we all saw that and then kind of melded all of those things together. So part of me was like, we should just put the funds together, and I really did think that, and I would be willing to have that discussion because we're saying they're for the same use. The one thing that's slightly different about CTEF is there's supposed to be this visitor
There has to be a link to visitor enhancement.
But we kept that in the application for, which doesn't need to stay in it, but we did keep that in the application for the cannabis fund too. It's essentially the same application.
I was already under the impression that we would we're using that as a basis, but not, that language would have been removed, but.
The visitor part, it's one sentence that says like, what's the visitor impact?
Yeah.
But because there's nothing in the policy about visitor impact, you could literally write NA and you wouldn't be disqualified from getting the money. Where if it was CTEF, you would 100% could not write NA. But so Haley would be tracking both of these funds, which are kind of special set aside funds that we can use for community enhancement.
Well, along with, Kathy,
Yes,
along with Kathy.
but Kathy's not tracking applications.
Yes.
She's just writing checks and doing a good job of that.
And I did approach Chuck Dobson, the chief of police, to see what their needs were, and he said there's all sorts of need out there from cannabis to opiates to what have you, so.
So I just have the one question. I apologize, I didn't reach out to you before, and Emily and I had the discussion, maybe you did, regarding the 50%, and I guess maybe.
Changed it.
What's that? It changed it to 75.
Yeah.
But I guess if I read it as in like any remaining funds, it has to.
Right, so the fund doesn't get so large that.
And he explained it, like all the questions that we had, he explained in his revised comment.
Oh, okay.
So it says like total revenue, like, cause we were like, what's he basing the 50% off of?
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
explained
it's
it.
a rolling annual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is, I think this is good to know, the public to know, that since the focus is on,
Jason, yeah, I was just gonna do that.
oh, you go ahead. You want,
I was just gonna hit like the highlights.
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'm hoping that
There, saves you again with the.
the
paper
hope
counting.
is that there won't be 75% or 50% or 25 left over, that we receive enough applications, but
We don't
needed
know.
we needed a safeguard in there.
It's just being transparent and accountable, and we have those, we're in the one shop that currently exists, and our funding is starting to see. It may ebb and flow, but it's only increasing, and we have zero dispensaries or retail shops in the village of Lake Placid, or just in the town of North Elba in itself. So it's good to have this policy to govern all of that, so we just don't know where the.
So the number one thing is community programs for student age children. Number two is community development. Number three is public safety and law enforcement. 4 is support for the aging population, and then this disclaimer about general fund, which Jason was talking about, it says at the conclusion of a rolling 12-month period, the cannabis revenue fund will be audited. If the balance excluding approved expenditures is greater than 75% of the total revenue from the preceding 12 months, action will be taken to reduce the fund level to 75% of the annual revenues collected by transferring the money to the town general fund. And so.
Does that mean use it or lose it?
Yeah, well, a portion of it.
Yeah.
Back to the general fund. Which just offset the tax base.
Any reason there's.
You're not gonna steal your thunder.
No, don't steal my thunder, okay. Obviously, I've been gone for 2 weeks, didn't see a lot of this, that's not the point. But looking at this and your initial thoughts were students involved, drug education, all this stuff, okay, which is excellent. And my point is, with this document, I think initially, we're a little bit too broad. I think that, first of all, if you're comparing it to CTEF, which you are, okay, we're never gonna see the funds that CTEF provide, the dollars.
Yeah.
We're never gonna see that. And I'm afraid, I get a number of points, but number one, if a good program comes along and we may not be able to fund it, because as we see with, I'm trying to use the proper terms, as we see with LEAF, all these organizations want a piece. And this particular last round, we had to cut a lot of them out. And I don't wanna see that happen with these funds. And I think, as I read this document, community program for student-age children is very important. Whether it be, whatever it may be, whatever we can come up with as far as deterring drug use. In one place in here, it says focusing on grades 5 through 8.
Yeah, and if you read,
There was
not to
a drop
interrupt,
in.
but if you
Yeah.
read there's an asterisk in there.
Yeah.
If you go to that website,
Okay,
it will explain
While you're focusing.
explain why we're focusing.
okay, no, that's good. I mean, that's fine. I just, I'm just pointing that out, and that's not a big. But to include all these other things at this point, so in other words, support for the aging population. That's me,
Well, Emily has, at first I was like, I had that same sort of
Yeah.
like sticker, like, what? But then she also had another point that they very well may be a good portion of the people purchasing it.
No,
And
no, no.
and should, and,
No, yeah,
and there should be like some component, like they should get some return on their investment as well, other than the medicinal reasons.
I mean, I can see public safety and law enforcement, that's a biggie. Okay, cause we're not just talking, I mean, we're talking about cannabis funds, but we're talking about opiates and other illicit drugs, okay? So that's a good thing. Community development such as, and obviously I have nothing against these programs, affordable housing initiatives and all, and parks and recreation facilities. This to me is just too broad at this point. In other words, we have no idea, as you say, the funds are just gonna be an ebb and flow. Okay, and we don't know, I won't be surprised if at some point, and plus, if you're leaving this up to Haley solely. It's gonna be, it's a big job. It's a big job, because. A lot of organizations, 501c3s. They fit into all these categories.
Yeah, I think the idea was to make it broad, and so if we thought it was a good program that fit within this policy, then we would fund it. But one thing that whoever was talking, I was like, maybe we should have a maximum, because you're right, the fundings are like, they're nowhere near LEED levels, right, or
That's right.
PPF levels. So maybe like the maximum ask is $5,000.
Well, that's it, but
Okay.
then that brings it, okay.
And we can always revise that if
Well, that-
revenues increase over time.
Well, that's the thing, and but if 2 points, if we restrict some of the things at this point. I mean, in other words, I'm just gonna use an example. Support for aging population, we take that out now, initial. And we find that there's a lot of funds available down the road, year, 2 years, we can add it back in. But we can't take it out. And I'll use an example of funding. Okay, Keith Clark has come to us. And he will come to us again.
Mhm.
And let's say he comes to us with a fantastic program. And it's $20,000. And the only way that program, it's something, I don't know, drug related, okay? That the only way that can be, that program can exist is if he gets $20,000 from these funds, okay? And we say to him, we only got $5,000. I just can't see all these wide range of things at this point for where it started out with your focus initial, okay? And taking it to this.
Well, that was his focus.
That was my focus, but
But-
yeah.
No,
When I did all the research on this,
Yeah,
now I'll agree with you, the supporting aging population and community development wasn't in my original.
Okay.
And that was,
And I'll add to that once you go.
yeah, it was popped in there. But there has to be some tie back to cannabis or opiates or something, like the school aged is the reason why 5 to 8, grades 5 to 8 is that's when they're most influential.
yeah, and
And if you can,
that makes perfect
they
sense.
don't need drug education, but if you can keep them busy, keep them off the
Exactly.
streets.
Provide opportunities for them to be engaged.
A deterrent,
Right.
sure.
Right.
So the
Well,
aging
it's-
population,
The more
I'm
you
not sure
feel
what you're gonna-
valued and engaged.
I got a pitch on the aging.
okay, go ahead, pitch away.
I was initially, I was like, whoa, she did. No, I'm not gonna lie, she sold me on it.
You're
He's easy, go ahead.
I'm not as easy, go ahead.
So the community development engagement, that was more about it just involved people, then they're less likely to fall back on drugs, right? So it wasn't necessarily about community development, it was about community engagement. I think that engagement somehow got dropped in one version. But it was about whatever you can do to engage people. So you're creating like common spaces and like, so if you're getting people to engage, they're less likely to abuse drugs. That was like the thought process about community engagement. I don't think I necessarily put affordable housing, I could have, because I think it just auto-populates in anything I write, but.
That's
Just
my
take
thought.
that out.
That was my entirely, that's what, I mean, I
Just
know.
train your AI. She's trained her AI to auto-generate.
Put it in.
I like the fact that so far, no matter what category you all like, we all agree that it's discretionary and we will hold the ability to gauge the importance of it regardless of where it lands.
And that's fair and
Yeah,
reasonable.
but the problem, the situation is by keeping it broad,
It creates a lot of work.
it takes a lot of work. And also, people can, an organization can come to us and say, okay, or come to Haley and say, hey. I'm using affordable housing, it affects affordable housing. Now, hey, we're all for affordable housing, but I can't see it at this point in this document. And along with other things too. And and the point is, okay, parks and recreation facilities to promote, healthy and active lifestyles. Yes, keep the kids busy.
Yeah.
Keep people busy, not just kids,
Keep
keep
people
people busy. I understand that, and maybe some language to do with all these things that we're putting in here to keep people busy. And, we'll rely upon AI to say it properly or something like that.
I don't use AI, thank you.
So one of us, it ain't me. But
Fewer.
that's right, exactly. I'm the aging population of that.
I'm happy to take a look at this with Jason and Rick, and well, all five of us are now
Yeah.
on it, and to pare it down and to make it more specific. But I do wanna give my pitch for aging in place, because, or the aging population, is because, there was multiple reasons. One was that I think you're the number one clientele, so we should give back to them.
Cause they have
My
money.
mom's 73.
Yeah, I was like, you know how much my mom spends, oh, they need cake. Give it back.
Yeah, it's out there now.
They have the data, right?
Oh.
I have to check IDs.
Yeah, so that was like part of the reason. The other reason is that we do so little for our aging population that I wanted to give them something, like I wanted to be able to like.
Who do you see applying for it? What agencies?
Yeah,
I think it would be the town of North Elba.
No, we can't apply for our own
Yes, we
grants.
can. We, the CTF is our own grant.
Yeah.
So that is the.
This is a
exact-
CTE.
But it's the exact same thing. So this is not just for outside agencies, this is for ourselves, to check ourselves. We literally, Haley like keeps a log of like, we bought porta potties with CTEF funds. So that's like accounted for of like how it impacted the visitors.
Because there is a request for it.
From the town of Elba.
Right, but I mean, how?
Okay, so-
Give me an
how
example
about-
how you would. use
So right now, there's no senior center, right? There's no lunch program for the seniors
Right.
anymore. So what if the town of North Elba was to like construct an idea working with the village and the county, correct? Because that's a county program. And
Office for the aging.
yeah, they needed additional funds to hire someone, or additional funds to pay the rent, or an additional funds to secure a location. Then we would fill out the application on behalf of the town of North Elba to use these funds.
So you only get lunch if you're on gummies?
Yeah.
No, you have to have dummies.
See from elevated
Okay.
kids.
Lunch from the machines.
Okay, I can understand, well, first of all, one of the things we wanna do is keep. I'm gonna try to say this right. Keep individuals, no matter what age, busy
And engaged.
and engaged, so they don't use illicit drugs.
I can
Okay,
live with that.
does that sound proper?
Well,
Okay, and I
I
mean,
would say so they don't abuse illicit drugs.
Right,
No, we
they're
don't
going to
want
the
them to use
senior
it.
citizen, they're
Well,
going to the
technically
senior
cannabis is
place,
illicit still, because it's federally illegal.
rather than sitting at home.
As far as the definition,
yeah,
yeah.
But
So like maybe we buy a senior bus that drives around.
Where's your $5,000 limit?
Yeah, see, that's the point. We're going to have compared to. Here's how much money we have in CTEF on an average cycle. Potentially, here's how much we have on an average cycle for these funds, okay? And I don't wanna start limiting people, every organization, to something that's unreasonable. So all I'm saying is, cut out some of these things. We can always put them back in, but we can't take them out.
I'll cut out housing. I really don't wanna cut out the aging population. I just don't.
I don't want to be cut out either, but, the point is, I mean. As
Well,
far as
you're in a different tax bracket.
Don't give me that.
You're not
There we go.
comfortable.
It's because I live above you, don't worry about it. No, I think that, I just
I'm
think,
more than happy though, I think the five of us re-looking at this policy and paring it down and potentially setting a limit. And maybe it's a limit, like generally, we do not, the funding is $5,000. Requests can be made over and above that at the discretion of the board, like it's our discretion of what this money is used for.
or,
We just want a guiding policy.
right, no, and I'm not, I won't harp on it, but that's my point, and the other point, the other thing. limits, we could also limit the number of grants.
I mean, or we could do a cycle, are you doing cycle similar to CTE where there's the application cycle?
Well, no, we don't have.
So
application.
do you all have this
Write
version?
our own mic.
It's a Word document.
What's that?
Do you all have this document?
Is that the one that you know?
So,
Yes.
yes, so why don't you make your changes on it and get it back to me?
Okay, and you know, the thing is,
Suggestions,
and, okay,
No, don't,
regardless of
don't
this.
use AI.
Will you do me a favor and put in a monetary example of the 75% thing?
Sure.
Thank you.
And the other thing is. Regardless of the document. I think we should come up with parameters where. Whether there is a cycle or they're reviewed, whatever cycle, because if people just, organizations start sending in applications. And we have to review them once a month to do this and that and funds, some, as we learned with LEAF, there's an emergency now and then, or there's, and that's an emergency, but people will realize, okay, it's gonna take 2 to 3 months, 4 months to get these funds. I've got to come up with an idea and an application, whereas somebody says, on July 1st submits an application and I need the money by July 15th. That puts pressure on Haley to just keep coming back and forth, and we've got to.
Yeah, I'm not against developing the policy more to have a structured application process. But are we holding ourselves to the structured application process? Because we don't do that for CTE, yeah. So I mean, do you know what I mean? Like we.
That would be
use
under-
CTE when we see it's
Yeah, but
necessary.
that's under an emergency component. of
Yeah,
it.
however. We don't have to, unfortunately, we don't have to go through the application process and everything else.
We don't have to do it for this either. We're just trying to
No,
follow.
we don't, but the applicants do. And therefore, I mean,
But
again, I'll compare it
I
to
just
me.
said that, but I'm also saying that I want us to. Like,
Okay.
I'm trying to hold us to the
Okay,
same
that's fine.
standards
cool.
with CTF.
That's
too.
good. Oh, yeah, no, that's fine, but with LEAF, I mean, and I keep saying LEAF as opposed to CA, because that's what I'm saying is, because we've just finished 7 rounds. Organizations realize they have to be on top of it. So if you need the funds for the summertime for August 1st, you better get your application in.
I think I need to put this in perspective, so
Thank you.
we understand
off.
the smaller scope of what we're talking about. We're talking about this as if it is CTEF. We currently have $53,000. We may see $100,000 in a year's time. Maybe in another year, we'll see 200, but it's cyclical.
Yes.
So, yes, your point is well taken that I think we're gonna have to accept applications more frequently in the beginning, so we have a feeling for what's important and what's not. And it will evolve itself. We're not talking about a huge pot of money. It will be, I don't wanna say it'll be less organized than LEAF, but it's a much smaller program.
And that's it, and that's why I think we should, just lastly saying, we should limit. Our parameters, things we're willing to look at because of that. If it grows and we find out that one facet here that we did leave in. Whichever one it is not being used, then we throw something back in.
And that's the process we're gonna do
Right.
starting right away.
Gotcha.
So just for me to understand where we're at. There are the school age children program seems to be unanimous.
Yes.
component of it.
And law enforcement.
And law
And law enforcement, yes.
The other two are up for further discussion here. And in addition. So we understand the intent of wanting to use that revenue to provide engagement activities and situations.
Yeah.
But then the second component of that is the logistics of constructing a grant application program timeline. In order to construct in the way that it doesn't tax Haley in a way that makes her job significantly more difficult during busy times when she's performing other functions.
That's right.
Okay.
So let's take it a step further on how we started this. We've all agreed on the community program for student age children. And we know Keith has appealed to us for money for a program that's put in place now. Even though the policy isn't in place and we've recognized that as a legitimate use, how do you feel about appropriating that money for Keith's program?
No, just circling back to what everyone else is saying, that's also to them, like. And I was a little passionate last time,
Yeah,
but I understand now with some distance, the importance of.
well, I felt like I have to bring it up
No,
because,
Oh, yeah, no, and the fact of which Rick brought up, legitimately so, is before we do anything, we need a policy,
okay,
okay? And whether I'm, at this point, whether I'm agreeing or not, do we wanna continue that thought?
so then let
Because
me,
if we have no policy. if
What's
we're-
his total ask? again?
7.
And
So-
there's some timing components.
So then is it fair to say this will be on July's agenda and we'll have made our recommendations and figure it out in
The
July?
policy, in other words.
Yeah,
Final.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure you weren't referring to Keith. but-
safe to hold a decision until then?
Because,
Okay.
I mean, point is, I mean, I agree with, oh, I would say, I agree we need a policy. And we should stick to that policy, therefore, we can't do anything till we have a policy.
So the one component is that if we're waiting, and if we do, and the discussion seemed to be kind of zeroing in on a limit for the application to loop him in as to when that becomes more clarified amongst the board. So if it conflicts with his ask, so he's aware of that.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the last point of that is, I'd forgotten the amount. I mean, Keith's ask is very good, supportive, supported. And he's not asking, regardless of the dollars initially, he's not asking for a lot of things to be done with this money. And it's already 7,000. You know, so we're, you know, and therefore, if we're gonna put a limit on it, it's gonna have to be a halfway decent limit. In other words, Emily, you threw out $5,000, which I understand you're throwing it out.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get you much, because even at 7,000 for Keith's program, it's not getting him a lot. So and therefore, if we put a realistic limit, dollar limit on a grant. You know, we're not gonna, you know, there may not be a lot of grants out there. So therefore, again, back to my,
Yeah, I get that, I think it's just getting the infrastructure in place.
oh yeah,
So a quick recap. Collectively, we're gonna give our opinions on the categories. To give money out to and suggest limits. Those are the two major things that I've heard
And a timeline,
in a timeline.
that's a timeline for applications, awards. things
Right.
like that.
Okay,
Hasn't stopped.
yes, and it will.
All day. All day.
Okay, so we covered it?
Yeah.
Enough to move forward? All right, next item on the agenda is just a quick update on Raybrook test wells. As you know, we have verified an adequate water source to supply Camp Adirondack and FCI Raybrook with adequate water, should they decide to move forward with those improvements to supply them. We have received the initial payment. You realize there was an estimate done to put the production wells in, and then there's the actual cost over a time period that exceeded what we thought would happen. Our well driller had a very serious hand accident while he was drilling. That held things up 10 months to a year. Hydrogeologist, because those test wells weren't drilled on his schedule, we had to wait 6 to 8 months for that. More time after COVID related in approximately $80,000 higher cost than the estimate. In order to modify payment from the state of New York, there's a process I have to go through. However, they paid the initial amount, $258,000. That is a breath of fresh air. That replaced funds that we spent. Kathy and I have been meeting to try to satisfy the justification an amendment to that initial estimate. I don't know a timeline on that. But at least I wanted to report that we've been paid the major part of those test wells. I've also recently gained, or am gaining access to direct contact with the Commissioner of Corrections, who was just recently confirmed by the Senate as a permanent leader. He was a deputy, I believe, for years. So I'm looking forward to direct conversations with him. Not over the existing engineer, but it'll leave me a better lifeline to moving forward. So that was really nothing more than an update. Next item, we sent, I don't know if you opened them up or not, but I've printed enough copies. This fall, we're gonna need to address our entrance doors to the town hall. Number of problems, they jam, they stick open, anyway, we've had them serviced 3 times in the last 2 months. It gets expensive every time they come, especially if they have to remain closed during business hours, so they try to come toward the end of the day, which leaves either Adrian and or Lori waiting till 6, 7 o'clock to lock up. It's just a system, those doors are old, it's time. But in moving forward, if you looked at any of these estimates, we are seriously considering 2 sets of doors. Because as one opens and we open up the pull open doors, we lose tremendous heat all winter long. So one that opens up with a little delay, it closes, the interior one opens, could be a huge.
We don't have a choice. It's an
Yeah.
ADA requirement.
I mean, it's so
Yeah.
silly that you come in with a wheelchair, you're stuck at
Yeah,
the second
no.
door.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I know it's expensive, but I think
No.
we just have
We
to
just
do
have
it.
to do it.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, that's gonna be on our list, budgeting this fall. Have, the estimates, Rick, I'm yet to get a reply back.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna follow through, because we have to get a couple bids on this. But I know this service tech is a good one, so in any respect, we'll move forward with that, sure. How about any committee reports?
Went down to the pickleball courts. Did you go down today?
No, didn't make it, been chasing
So
my
they
tail all
put,
day,
great guy there.
other than this morning,
Damon, great guy.
yeah,
Oh my God, nice guy. We talked for a few minutes and they're putting they put the first sealant coat down
yep.
and they hope to get the next coat on tomorrow.
Was he done pitting it?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, he's done. So I asked him while I was there, looking around the area, and we talked about, you got my email anyway.
yeah,
If you look at it, here's the surface area, here's the concrete, and here's the fence. And there's about that much room, which
Yeah.
obviously,
Sure.
is an error. So we had talked about putting in topsoil or whatever and planting and whatever. So I asked Damon, he's the guy. He says, crush stone.
yeah,
Whatever one you wanna use, but he says, not only do you, get a good area, but you get improved drainage and stuff like that. And so I think that's.
less maintenance,
Less maintenance, and I did email Derek and I emailed Matt and CC Derek about. Matt's thoughts about improving the area, we gotta seed it and stuff like that with how he's going for that. And I noticed they've been mowing down there, but. The fence that's put in here, not the court fence, but the divider fence, they haven't mowed at all
Right.
in there. So that's something we gotta look at.
Matt knows that Friday we're gonna try to open it
That's it.
if they get it painted.
That's right.
So he's prepared to go up there and,
Did you do something? I mean, we got at least weed whack in the middle.
yeah,
Now, I
Weed
guess,
whack all over this place.
yeah,
yeah,
People are getting on mowers.
oh, yeah, that's the thing. And I also think that, and I assume, I think the last thing I read was the benches should be here at the end of the month. Something like that, the 4 benches we ordered.
back to the drainage on the sides, I'm sure, did he recommend, fabric first?
No, he didn't. He just,
No,
I mean, we could, that really didn't, and
just to
break
keep
it.
stuff from growing. up.
Right, oh yeah, I mean, I think we should, but I just asked him what he thinks we should be put in and without hesitation, he said crusher.
Okay,
And yeah, we definitely need fabric too, but that's something.
And I wish I'd have thought about it before the fence went up, but. Cause it's all handwork, we aren't gonna put a machine on top of those courts.
Yeah, but that's okay, because I mean, even if we put it in ahead of time, we'd have to adjust it for the fence, and now we've got a, we have a
Boundary.
defined area, so it's handwork,
Yeah,
Yeah, and the other thing was, I thought about this, and I was gonna send you guys an email while I was on vacation, but had problems with my email, a lot of it. When we were leaving and I was in Connecticut, there was a big tournament of high school kids, okay, for a sport. And I was trying to figure out what it was. And this is a question, it was for, well, what they call ultimate now, but it's ultimate frisbee. You can't use the name frisbee anymore, it's just ultimate. And I did a little research, and the size of the courts for ultimate are very similar in size to lacrosse. So just an idea thrown out, and I'm gonna talk to Matt about just an idea,
we just happen to have a lot of land.
so.
Well,
Whether-
maybe go mountain bike riding and then.
That's right. And the thing is too, I mean, if we have tournaments, this one was, I talked to, it was in, like I said, it was in Connecticut. And there was people all from the Connecticut, Massachusetts area, and the two high school kids I was talking to about it, cause I finally said, what sport are you playing? Nothing really to buy t-shirts and everything. They were from Ottawa. So
Yeah.
that's how big it is. And they said they travel all over the
Clubs
states.
or schools,
Clubs.
okay,
Clubs. And so there's just an idea, and
Yeah.
if we could, just like we, with the tennis courts here, we relined them for pickleball. And I don't know the logistics of this, if we could do something with a lacrosse line field, why couldn't we do it? Like I said, they're like 5 feet off in.
we have a
difference.
whole practice field area, Dick.
Yeah.
That is not dedicated at all,
That's what I mean, so.
It's not
That's-
lined.
It's not-
Right.
Which is fine.
which we can line easy
Yeah,
enough,
but I wonder,
cause they use it for the tournament.
I wonder how Lax would feel if they had ultimate other lines.
I don't, you'd have to explain it to me, whether there's
You couldn't have
permanent
both lines.
standards.
That's
or-
what-
That's the thing,
I'm saying,
that's the thing, but there's an avenue that, because I also did some research, and there is nothing in this area for ultimate.
And listen, down where you guys are picking the area for the pump track, there's enough room down there
Oh,
for
yeah,
2
oh,
of
yeah.
those fields.
Yeah, you
That's a
can,
lacrosse tournament, you just select your fields
Yeah,
Yeah.
and convert them.
yeah, that's the thing, so just an idea that I'm gonna.
keep it on our list for our master plan.
Yeah. That's, because, I just, and minimal, just like lacrosse, not a lot of maintenance. You're taking care of the fields anyway. And you just bring in another sport.
Good.
I can see Dick in his little North Alabama, like athletic shirt with the new logo, going around whipping a frisbee around barefoot.
Dick or Derek, do you think there is a time frame to do like a actual ribbon cutting at pickleball?
That's what
We should announce like
I'm
a
actually
long time in making.
kind of waiting
Really
to
big
see
time.
what the weather Friday is. If it's raining, it's not good.
Yeah, I mean,
But if.
you're absolutely right.
But I'm saying maybe it's not even Friday because you're talking about seating, and so maybe it's like a.
We'd like it to look good.
Yeah.
That's the point, because, well,
One of
Matt,
these bunches coming.
I had met Matt, just ran into him, out front just before I went on vacation, we were talking about it. Redefining a little bit of the
Parking
the
area.
parking area, we can go a little bit further because it's just not growing and there's room for it. Yeah, do something because talking to Damon today, I said, well, we wanna see, he says, yeah, that area needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think we can have a soft opening, but I think 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, as long as we get this work done,
Yeah,
then we can have a actual ribbon cut.
Okay.
And have the press there.
So you think 2 to 3 weeks is about?
I don't know, I mean, what do you think, Derek?
well, I guess it depends. What do you think about putting a couple picnic tables up there?
Yeah, that's my whole point, that's why I want to have the meeting, the
Yeah.
second part of my thing was to discuss all that, but that's the thing. But we've got to, and this is on Matt and Ken, is they've got to get on and do it.
Yeah,
They've got to bring in topsoil and seed it.
and I don't wanna
And
be
crusher.
totally focused on Park District, but you realize everything that's going on at Showgrounds.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
I know, I know.
It's more than intense.
Oh, no, I know, but that's the
Yeah.
thing, but I was gonna say something and I won't because it wasn't appropriate, but the point is, I think that,
I can patiently wait for the ribbon cutting, I just want.
yeah, no, that's the
when to
thing, but
put it
that's the
on
thing,
my-
we, you know, and we also don't want to say, have a soft opening. And go ahead and use it and have it look the way it does,
Right.
you know, because people are gonna take pictures, oh, it's open now. And they're gonna take pictures of
It'll
themselves,
be
take
disappointing.
it and go like, ooh.
Yeah. I fully expect if Thursday's good, we'll pull people and send them up there Thursday afternoon and weed whack and mow.
Move back and mow, and it just, I mean, I don't, you can initiate it, but if you wanna have Matt talk to Ken about, you know. Bringing in the crusher. And his guys spread it, I mean, it can't, granted, it's handwork, but
Yeah,
it can't take that long.
highways off on Fridays.
True.
Yep,
You know, but just, whatever,
good. I'll make sure I touch base with Matt
okay, cause
before.
I mean, there's this, and this need to be done to make it, to me, presentable. And I did talk to Sharice, she has the pots ready to go to
Yeah,
flowers in there and
and
everything.
you think benches will be here?
From last thing I saw, end of June.
Okay.
Yeah.
What else we got for committee reports? Anything?
I'm just gonna quickly, I think 3 or 4 of us were there yesterday for the comp plan scenario planning.
Yeah.
I'll let it speak
Yeah.
for itself, we were there.
It's awesome.
We take you on it sometime. But I think it was an interesting next step in the process. And it will be even more interesting to see how she
Record stuff.
synthesizes these scenarios. And so there were 4 scenarios.
Okay.
2 axes, one was affordability, one was preparedness for climate change.
Okay.
Either really prepared, not prepared, and affordability, unaffordable versus affordable, so there's 4
Yep.
futures.
Yep.
And you had to talk about what the future looked like, and then you had to talk about, in small groups, what actions you would take if you were in that future.
Okay.
And then the facilitator actually like creates a narrative based on everyone's work of what they saw in this future, and there's no one right answer about the future.
And it was all over the place.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just about defining your future, and then through that process, through a comp planning process, you kind of, you hope that the community chooses what future they want, and. And I don't know which one it will be.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's not unprepared high affordability.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Many people feel like that's what we really-
But-
That's what we really are now.
Yeah, there's a couple there, but not 4.
Uh,
They could-
yes, that was brought up quite often. That was my only comment. I think that was the only thing.
All right.
Comp plan.
Kathy, thanks for hanging in there. You wanna go to budget amendments?
Sure.
Oh, sorry, Kathy, your volume's down. Can you say something?
Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I did email everything last week.
Thank you for the
Yes,
increased
yeah.
time frame.
Thank you.
My comment before we start on the budget amendments is I noticed that the claims folders and the abstract does not appear to be there with you.
We already signed that.
Signed and
Okay, just wanted to make sure that it didn't get forgotten. Thank you. So on the budget amendments, the biggest one in the general fund is for the SE Group's comprehensive plan. In this year's budget, we had only appropriated $15,000 of their total fee. With the, I guess with the assumption of 1 or 2 things, either that they would not get as far as they have gotten with the billing progress, or that we were going to appropriate any additional amounts from either fund balance or our contingent account. So of the 3 items that we need to appropriate money for, one is pesticide for black fly. One is the additional amount for SE Group, and the third one is $220 for our EAS annual fee, which is just that much over what we budgeted for again for 2024. The total of $12,440. My question to the board is, do you want to use contingency fund? Or do you wanna take it out of fund balance? It's an option that you have, I just need to know where you wanna take the money for it.
I believe the SE group overage should be considered under fund balance because it affects. Now, are you talking about general fund balance? or
Yes, this is
district?
just general fund.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, we were around 104,000, so it would make sense for us to, at least in my opinion, to take it from general fund balance. Any other input?
My only question, Kathy, is I don't remember how the comp plan was budgeted because it is a grant, so we had 15,000 committed in 22, I wanna say. And then the grant funding, and so. I guess how does it get budgeted that we're gonna be paying out all that money with the reimbursement of 100 and something, or 97,000?
Okay, so we haven't gotten the reimbursement yet.
Yes.
Okay, so the problem, I don't know if it's a problem, the process of how it works is that if it didn't get spent in 2022 or 2023, that money rolled back into fund balance,
General.
which supports Derek's position of appropriating it from fund balance. The other issue is that this particular expenditure line, the 6310 community development professional services, you can only spend what's appropriated. And so if we only budgeted 15,000 for this year in that line for the comprehensive plan, we can't spend any more than that until we put money into that fund. So basically, if you guys did not approve this $11,000 right now, we cannot cut a check to the SC group until the board decides where that money is gonna come from.
And then when when we do get the grant reimbursement, which could honestly potentially be in 26.
It would go into a revenue line in the general fund. And at
Okay.
that time, assuming that the town board says, okay, this is the money we've been waiting for the comprehensive plan, it would then roll back into fund balance.
Okay.
Which is like just taking it from a different checking account.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Did I explain it?
So in that vein, are you guys okay with fund balance?
Yes.
Yeah. Got that, Kath?
So do you want me to do the whole 12,000 out of fund balance?
That's my suggestion.
Okay, then that's what we'll do. In the highway fund, the DB fund for sidewalks, it's the fourth invoice from Swazo and Associates for their professional services, which we had already designated ARPA funds for, so it's just moving the money around to make it available. And then the last one is 6,800, also for Swazo Associates for the sewer analysis that they're doing, which we had discussed prior, because this again is, you know, one of a few invoices we've received from them for that process. And the board had decided that we were going to borrow the money from general fund until we know how much money total we're gonna need to plan on bonding for to do whatever upgrades are recommended.
Correct.
Explained that fairly clearly. I think I did.
Yep, you sure did.
So basically, this is it. It's not a lot this time around.
I'm thankful.
Also, I wanted to point out, that there was a spreadsheet in that email for personnel. There's the 3 new employees that were recently hired. I missed it last month, so it's just bookkeeping basically.
Yep, Justin's our new employee at transfer station.
So that's all I have.
That's enough. Sorry you had to hang in there so long. Hope you're feeling better.
Oh, hopefully by tomorrow everything will be better.
Okay,
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
have a good
Kathy.
night.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Kathy.
Chris.
Yes, Kevin.
So I'll take a motion to accept budget amendments as presented. Jason, second by Dick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Let's see. We've already okayed the audits, but I'll need a motion to accept those audits. Rick, second, Jason. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. No one opposed? Carried. Next item is an opportunity for persons' opportunity to speak.
Just a question on, why with part of the cannabis fund would you guys target law enforcement when? If we're trying to give back to the people that use it, cannabis users are like, based on the National Institutes of Health, like half as likely to abuse other drugs as regular citizens. And they generally have less, I guess I just am curious.
Brendan,
But-
it's not about like giving money to.
No, I know that, I'm just saying.
So let me just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is I just heard you guys multiple times rope in, opiates and that as far as like, what is the police agency looking to do with that money? And why would that be better than potentially more preventative measures like with the kids and increased programs there?
I don't think we're prioritizing, from my perspective, like you heard that, like what my priority was. The application process would, if they were, it wouldn't be just a blanket sort of, oh, we need this, they would apply, and then we could have a very public discussion as to the merits of it. Whether, I think from my perspective, it would be kind of under the sort of safety. Cause crime, to some extent, not related to cannabis, but if there is an application that the board feels that is worthy of it, that we could, in a way to keep our residents safe, then that would make sense.
And would that just be local law enforcement or would like county offices?
Oh, just, I was thinking local law
Yeah.
enforcement. That would be the only avenue from what I would understand. And it's just like, I know that it wouldn't be using cannabis funds to combat a bigger problem, but there are bigger problems.
Well, it's tied together a lot of times too.
Yeah, but it's, we just, any opportunity that the board, there's an application that feels that from the police department that the board feels that would help, it's reasonable and it can help keep the community more safe.
Yeah.
Through a very public and open discussion, that seems reasonable.
Yeah, just curious, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brendan. Yes, sir.
So you were talking about the well testing, is this in relation to the iron that was contaminating that
No, this is town of North Elba. The iron that was contaminating the village is one of their 2 wells, I believe, where infiltration of iron is becoming a problem. So yes, they were looking for a second backup source, if you will. At this time, that doesn't involve us, but what I'm referring to are 2 test wells we put in our well field in Raybrook that we hope will result in supplying Camp Adirondack and FCI Raybrook, a federal facility, with groundwater rather than surface water that comes off 2 nearby mountains and they run it through a filtration plant, which is very, very expensive. So they appealed to the town 12 years ago, and that's how long we've been working on this effort to get groundwater to the prisons. So that's what that's about. So at this point, please don't link Saranac Lake's iron problems with North Elba.
Tell me, Matt, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Galen Hallett.
Then he's a new intern, right? For the Adirondack Daily Enterprise.
Okay, because Raybrook water, like you can't knock Raybrook water, like it's the most amazing water around, it does not have any iron problem.
Yeah, no,
It like wins awards.
I'm not an expert.
In theory, or as soon as we get
Don't inflate the Raybrook
I
waters.
didn't mean to, I was just.
That's an inside joke that you're just.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Not everything is perfect in Raybrook with the water.
Yes.
Lots of it is very clean, tastefully.
And so you talked about some setbacks with the well testing though, could you like expand on that?
No setbacks to the production wells, only setbacks in our getting full payment for what they cost.
Okay.
And that's the modification agreement we're going through now. from the time of the estimates were given to the time that we actually got those test wells accepted by hydrogeologists and ultimately the Department of Health, basically was a 2-year offset. So the cost of putting in those wells from the initial estimate escalated to almost $80,000. Yep, and I'm not saying the state won't pay us for that, but this process we have to go through now to justify it, it's cumbersome.
Right.
Yep. James, you've been more than patient.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're welcome to come on and sit.
James Condon. I live in town of Greenburgh, New York. I also live out on Buck Island in Lake Placid. Been there out there for about 38 years. And so I didn't speak with Derek ever. I emailed, so you're the supervisor,
I am.
and you are
I'm with Lee.
Lee and
Jason Leon.
Dick Cummings. Oops, sorry.
Rick Preston.
What?
Rick Preston.
Okay,
Adrian Relier, secretary.
okay. So so I emailed Derek, and did you mention anything to anybody that I emailed?
Briefly, just that you had contacted me with initial ideas that maybe eminent domain could play a role in. Initially, our first email, James was under the impression that we didn't care what happens at that Paradox Landing.
I can tell you exactly about that. There was an email from one email went out and they didn't say that word, and that's where I got them. They said that the town has zero interest, and that was the direct quote. So I took it as zero interest as meaning not caring.
Yeah,
So I.
but it
spoke
couldn't
to
be
you.
farther from the truth, James.
Okay, good. I believe you. Thank you. So, yeah, so that was my initial conversation with Derek. I've been, I've known about the sale of Paradox Landing, which was putatively the Lansing's Marina in Lake Placid, in the village of Lake Placid, right?
Right.
And I think the line is right at the
Town
shoreline.
line is close, that's right.
So, a letter, a concerned person from the lake community. Also, the lake community, there's the landlocked people and there's people who have roads. And the ratio is about, there are 88 landlocked homes, 130 road access homes, so about 4 out of 10 is landlocked. So, okay, so a letter went out last summer. And they thought maybe that they had a good solution to it. And didn't hear much all winter, and I wasn't on the mailing list. That's what happened, because I wasn't on the shore. I'm not on the Shore Owners Association, so they got a mailing list from them, but I never heard about it. But nothing went out except from one letter that I finally saw and read. And we were having trouble getting communication with the Lansings running their Paradox Landing. Mr. Lansing passed away a year or so ago, so there was some turnover, but business is running and everyone's there this year. Some people, myself, my check was not cashed for a while, question why that happened. So there's some things made us nervous that we wouldn't be there getting to our camp this summer.
So James, do you have a slip there? Is that it?
Exactly, yes.
Do you launch from there as well?
Put my boat in the water from the trailer? No.
Okay.
Only when it's broken down.
So it's not necessarily the launch, but more of the.
The launch is, I understand, is the village owned. That's where the electric goes in.
Yes.
To the, okay, so.
That was, hence my question.
Been Paradox Landing ever since I came here, so it's had a long run, so. So now. My worries, I've learned came up here, this is my first time up this season, and I. Handed out flyers on Groom's Boat and Homestead Groom's Boat and Paradox Landing. You okay? Looks like a name like yours.
I think she has a hope one day.
There's a really family up there,
Okay.
but I'm not really
That's all I got.
It's Derek's fault. You know,
I got a letter on my boat, or boat, GNS twelve.
Okay, yes, that was me. So. So I wrote the letter out and so I haven't gotten many responses from people, but yeah, the thing is, I wrote the letter and I got a little more information, so. What I needed you for, I asked for government intervention, but now it's I just wanted you to stand by. I wanted to come and get to know everybody in case this thing does come to a head and things don't go right. We won't be needing too much help. Everything will be fine. That's the answer to my prayers. So, but anyway, I want to tell you who we are. My estimation is that the tax revenue to the schools in the town and the county is $1 million in tax revenue comes from the landlocked people. So we are a good entity, I think, for the town.
John, I apologize. Maybe I've been a little busy, but I'm not understanding the context.
And I
What's
hope you'll
transpired?
cut to the chase, because for us to intervene in any way in this private property entity is virtually impossible at this point. Of course, we recognize your tremendous tax influence on our budget and everything, but because it's private land and for sale privately, we're not an intervention like for a government entity to step into this situation is out of our control.
Oh, so, okay, so just, there's gonna be a sale. I apologize. I wasn't aware. And you're concerned that if there is a sale and.
There is a sale.
But there is a sale and it changes the dynamic and then prevents you from being able to use that access to reach your camp. That's.
Yeah, our
concern. Okay.
our home values are worthless,
Okay.
really. So.
They would have to trailer in, trailer out.
Yeah.
Now I know, I apologize.
Especially 88 people trying to do the same thing. Like I said, I don't need your intervention now, but the government can do something. They can take private property, of course they can. But I don't need that done right now, so it's off the table, really. But what I wanted to also let's see, check. So what is the town? Does town have any presence on the lake? The village has a launch, state owns a launch.
No,
No, that's very odd.
I agree.
Anywhere else in the town, is Saranac Lake in the town of North Elba, all in the town of North
Well,
Elba?
about 25% of the village, maybe not quite, let's say 20% lies within the village.
The
So
village.
is there waterways within the town of North Elba? Within the village, yes. Part of Lake Flower is there.
And you have a North Elba launch or something?
No, nothing, no, just a state launch, which is just outside the town of North Elba line.
Outside of North Elba, so really,
Yes.
it's very odd, attraction of the Adirondacks, originally it was water and
We love to
huge,
have an
huge
access.
attraction, the Adirondacks is water and you don't have water.
The village gives us a slip.
So
anyway.
please understand, it's not that we're not interested. And we would love to be able to protect all the rights of the people on Lake Placid, but unless we had some land or some access to do that, this is a tough one.
Or money, there's the money part of it.
He always forgets.
But we're always aware, I guess, well, maybe not so much as many as you, but if there is a concern, we're always an open ear. And being a stakeholder in some sort of discussions to alleviate any concerns as much as possible, I would think.
Of course, but realizing the scope of what's going on down there, we're talking about, what, $7 million?
Yeah, it's a private sale. I mean,
Yeah.
it's owned by a private individual being bought by a private individual. It's for $6 to $7 million.
Well, I don't believe that price, and if you're curious, you should. I can't afford to go out and hire appraisers and
Well,
go look at a
sometimes
property
that-
that I'm not even going to buy, but. If you're interested, look and see what that Paradise Landing is worth, and it's not worth $7 million. I mean, you just go on the internet and look at prices for marinas. I see one in Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn has the most expensive real estate in the country. And there's a big marina going for sale for 3.4 million, so.
I saw the proposal for the sale. And the $7 million includes renovations, future renovations. So they're, you know, proposing to remove the docks and put brand new docks in and covered or whatever. It's not just what it's worth right now. You know, they're
Based on
making
future
sense. It's also like it's a conglomerate of people that are buying into it. But it's 7 million was the number that I saw, and there was a lot of future, you know, plans that had to do with that number.
To my point, then, yeah, that's thank you. I didn't know that, but that's not what it is now, and that's not what that land is worth and the equipment. Like, I'm not asking you at this point to buy it, and you can buy land. You can any land you want, you can take anywhere.
As long as it qualifies for the public good.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I've done considerable research and I know that you contacted Senator Steck's office and they called me right away. So we've had good conversation in trying to recognize, could this project qualify? To date, it does not.
But even was what the village conducted eminent domain for the museum, they had to have an assessment, and where the village was not legally. They were unable to pay anything more than what it's assessed for, but we don't have $3 million to purchase it, do
Well,
we?
it's assessed at 4.
Or said, we don't have $4 million, do we? Because our fund balance
Right.
is a little bit lower than that.
It's not feasible.
Yeah.
So respectfully, James, where are we headed? What are you looking?
Well, I just also want to say that I'm not a lawyer. I don't know if you knows the law here. Well, about 2005 was a Supreme Court case, New London, Connecticut versus Kilos. So everyone's old preconceptions about eminent domain are outdated, and now public benefit means anything that's public benefit, even if it's for private use. So that's
I guess, even with that said, looking at our budget, I don't think we have $4 million.
Or even take it, I mean, it's like, it's village lane. I mean, it's in the village, it's.
right. It's also, yeah.
Because the village would have to
right.
initiate that sort of.
Yeah.
Process.
Mhm.
They're a little bit wealthier than.
I hear they have $4 million.
I know, they might. We're checking.
She leaves at that point.
Yeah.
So also, I'm here at a town meeting, and really good question should be for the village, and what is this zoning for Paradise Landing? I'm sure these people who are trying to buy it. You know the answer. If it's non-conforming use, and that could be trouble for them, for us as people who park there to get paying access to their camps. The thing is, one of the things is my camp was part of one of the old original grand camps, they call them, very big. There's several of them, some of them are miles out. One's at Oak Island, and it's Camp Carolina that didn't have a road for a year. And big money built these houses, and there was no mistake. These people didn't build these houses knowing that they're landlocked. There wasn't a situation. They could just take their boats, and there wasn't so many people going up there. Everyone has a boat now. It's just the world has changed. And it's like, we wanted to get around to that, solving this problem sometime to finally get ourselves deeded land to park our boat and our car. So we just, it was just unfinished business. And this thing caught us by surprise with so many boats and a sale of a marina. And has the town ever engaged in a public-private consortium to purchase something? outright, not aside from eminent domain, like my town. My town, town Greenberg is the largest town in New York, and it didn't have a hockey rink until 1996. And someone wanted to build a rink and it was expensive, so they got together and they made some concessions and some money. So it worked out. Do you ever do that, construct things and get involved with the developer?
You mean, would we consider?
Have you ever?
I'm sure
Examples?
if the opportunity presented itself, we would research it. I think that's an easy thing to say, we would research it. Identifying that on Lake Placid,
And I'm not sure where the town ever gets involved, where the town, like, let's say in an ideal world. The town owns land and the town builds this marina and there's 45 slips or 100 or 110 slips. I don't see a world in which a public entity of a municipality then is giving deeded access to camps on the lake. I mean, I see that as a stretch, a legal question, I'm not saying it's totally out of the realm of possibility, but a legal question.
access is one.
Yeah, like it's one thing to increase access, increase supply with the increased demand, and so you're allowing more boats on the lake. Hopefully offsetting the cost that the other two marinas are charging, or just opening up more slips. But I don't think a municipality is ever in a position where they're gonna open up more slips and then say, this is deeded access to this camp. This is deeded access.
You get it, that's glad you brought that up, because. In some places in New York, many places. There's residential neighborhoods and you have a right, it's by statute. You can park on that street if you are a resident, so it's almost like you're given property to park your car. And
Are those within the Adirondack Park? Cause part of the state constitution is it's gotta be like accessible to all New Yorkers.
the parking spaces?
No, in the Adirondacks, part of our like Forever Wild charter is it has to be, like, you wouldn't be able to preclude only residents from having access to that launch. Because it's gotta be accessible to all New Yorkers, if it's within the Adirondack Park. So I was wondering if the towns you were talking about were within the Adirondacks or not.
No.
Got it.
So there are parking spaces by statute. And then there's free parking in many places, cities, New York City has lots of free parking. You can find it, but if parking was free, even boat parking. It increases the valuation of your property. And you could, increase valuation would result in higher taxes and you could pay for. Nothing's free, but you would pay for it in your taxes. It's like the marina is taking money that should be yours. Because you should be taxing us to park our boats, you should get that money.
I understand your plight, James, but
It's still a village, but for me as a town councilman. Although Lake Placid resides in the town of North Elba, that is on village land, and for the town.
It's not on village land, it's
What's that?
within the village.
It's within the village, sorry, I apologize, it's within the village. We generally don't make any decisions or actions, we leave the representatives, the elected representatives of the village to handle those. And I believe they have a meeting on Monday, the 17th, and they may have a better. They would probably be able to at least address your concerns better than we could, because we are at a loss, because from my perspective, we don't have any.
I think
say.
his point is that he pays taxes, he lives in North Elba, so we should.
And
We
his
should
property is
assure
in North
him.
Elba.
we should
So,
help.
but you're right, we're the
Because
village, that's village property.
It was expected that we were
Within the
going
village,
to work, we would have, it was never a problem, the people who own those properties always got to shore.
So,
But another
But you
question.
can do it though through the DEC boat launch.
Yes, yeah, it's not feasible
Two boat
for
launches.
88 people to access their homes with launch.
but what
That's
is,
true, but you can though.
Yeah.
what is the,
You can.
you're losing your boat slip,
That was the fear.
Potential.
Yeah, that was the fear, yeah.
but I understand that there's more boat slip being put in.
I don't understand, I don't know, is that right? That would be good, that's good news. Yeah, that was,
Is that what you wrote?
Looking at me?
Yeah, Brad.
Yeah, they're gonna be putting additional boat slips, like more than there are now.
But they're at a.
I know that they're gonna be,
rental rate,
they're
right?
gonna be more of. Like a condo association style setup where you would buy a space and then you would continue to pay. Like a due every year.
Maintenance fee,
It would be,
And would it be
and it would be bought and sold like any other piece of property.
Like deeded access.
Paradise Landing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then with the original, the slip owners from the previous business, would they have any sort of preference, or do they have an
To
opportunity?
my understanding, it's an opportunity, but it's not like it's going to like that, it's like a bidding. It's being bid.
Okay, so,
If I
and
have
then-
more money than you do, I'm gonna get the slip, you're not gonna.
so, well, I guess what your perceived issue is that it's gonna be substantially more expensive.
Exactly, you got it.
Okay,
It's also the two,
However,
it's kind of nebulous, I have a question, and I've been here so long and I understand these water questions are nebulous. But I think it is the situation in Paradox that they own the land, but they don't own the water and they don't own the land under the water, so how did people get away with that in New York, is renting out getting paid to park on water over state land? Don't you want some money out of that?
That sounds like a weird state
That's a neat.
What is that called, riparian rights?
Yeah,
Riparian.
James, what I did wanna say to you though is that, like, I don't want you to think that we're not listening and we're not hearing your concern and that or that you're the only one who's brought this concern to us. So it's very much on our radar and we are trying our best to figure out where we fit as a municipality. And that's a struggle to see where we fit. But we're
Well,
not, we're,
Remember, you are 100% of Lake Placid Lake, the water.
No,
Except
Saint
for-
Amand.
Yeah, okay, but the houses, as far as the houses are, you're almost all of them,
in the village.
and of the landlocked ones, yeah. You are in,
Landlock is North Elba St. Armand.
yeah.
so I guess I understand that the town of North Elba. There are going to be potentially, what you're stating, downstream impacts based on what's gonna transpire. With the houses on the lake, that's what you're contending, and I think we all see the potential of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that
How can we-
we're listening and we
Yeah.
are also concerned about the potential impact.
Yeah, but I guess we wouldn't be able to have a solution for you this evening.
No,
And like you said, we are listening to you.
yes, you are, should I see that? Thank you.
So I think all we can do is await round two. To see how things materialize.
Yeah.
And see if there is any opportunity for a town to be involved, but as Jason said a couple times. Right now, that area lies within the village.
And is a
Right.
private sale.
Yeah,
And it affects town of North Elba.
yeah.
So Derek, and I think Derek is full aware of and has his ear to the ground for all of those other situations and will inform the board and will take any action that. I imagine he would recommend, but there's, that's very
Well, it's just what
complicated.
happened tonight with the school board, could the village gift the town redraw the boundaries?
I would say there is a better chance.
Yeah.
But I,
High freezing over.
but even if the town, James, what I'm trying to say is that even if the town, all of a sudden, someone gave us 3 acres of land to build a marina and $7 million to build a marina, we built the marina. And, we had the land, we built the marina, all I see it doing is increasing access, which I don't think is a bad thing, I actually think that's a good thing, like you're increasing the number of slips. But those slips, I don't see where a municipality has a place to then give deeded access to the camps on a lake.
Cause essentially we would just.
I think we would
access
just
for
be
those.
opening up access.
There's nowhere further we can move tonight, James, I'm sorry to say that to you. But I wanna keep this meeting going in a productive state, we can't. There's no way we can give you satisfaction tonight, but just know we're still listening. We'll still be will try to be players in this, but it's limited to our access to this situation right now, unless something major was to change.
And I will ask that legal question about deeded access.
Yeah.
I'll try to find that out for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so with that, we thank you for
All right,
coming,
thank
you're
you.
welcome here all the time.
All right, thank you.
We'll just monitor it the best we know how.
And last question, how are your black flies?
I just came out Saturday afternoon and it was late in the day, so no, I haven't been bitten once, I haven't. No black
Oh,
flies.
you're lucky. You got your.
Degrees and rain.
Little bug spray, no, it's fine.
Good.
You got your.
I don't come up too early because I don't like.
It's good to meet you, James.
Good to meet all of you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
Excuse me, James, can you say your last name, please?
Condon. C1B1.
C-O-N-D-O-N, okay, thank you.
Brad, did you come to speak?
I did, yeah.
Patient.
First of all, thank you for letting me experience what you guys do here. It's my first time being at a town board meeting.
You are most welcome.
And I'm here for a couple reasons.
Sit down.
Okay, cool, thank you. The first reason, I was really interested in knowing what was going on with the black flies. They were terrible. I work a lot on the lake. I'm dumping DEET on my kids, you know what I mean? It's causing a lot of problems and I'm just trying to figure out, what logistically is being done to move forward and make that better.
Yeah.
After hearing what you had to say, that was fantastic. I got a bunch of, questions for you guys, but I just kind of want to leave that, or maybe an email to you, that's a lot of time. I don't want to take a bunch of time.
Science questions.
Yeah, it's not science questions, it's more like, sorry, I was kind of writing them down as I was going, but like,
This isn't over.
Yeah.
This is like.
I'm not trying to like take a bunch
No,
of time on
the
it either.
board, no, I mean, as far as the black flag conversation, this was, we all recognize over the last couple of years, they've been.
Terrible.
Yeah. We wanna let the public know, we acknowledge that it has been
Cool.
terrible. And this was the first step, is the little educational as far as what the process is and
Awesome.
what the location. There's gonna be an ongoing conversation about how can we adjust moving forward.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was like hoping to suggest, and like I said, I don't wanna like waste time if that's
No,
not
no,
gonna be
no.
absorbed
The
right now.
most important slide you saw were those 7 stages of metamorphosis.
Sure, yeah.
That larva goes
Yeah.
through. And it's.
I didn't know that the females bit yet.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they had to kill them in
Blame
the
it on
larvae,
the-
so it was very informative, I
Yeah.
loved it,
What we're doing is we're missing some of those stages.
Right.
While the food, the BTI is in the water.
To my understanding, we're missing those stages because of one, staffing. Who wants to do that? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, it's
What are
like
you guys
and then you
doing,
get laid
what are
off.
you guys doing to project that to the community? Hey, we're looking for black fly
Yeah.
Yeah.
people.
No,
I've never seen that,
And that's
cause I
why.
didn't sign up for it, cause they killed me.
So that's why I asked him, like, if it's staffing, then it's like, that's one of our problem areas, so we.
So staffing and then incentives.
Mhm.
What incentives do anybody have to go walk around in the woods and spray chemicals?
Typically, the
It's not
people we
really.
get come from Pulse Nest College.
Sure, it's a learning experience.
Yeah, whether that's.
And you get a certification.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I see that as like, okay, well, like, you're not getting any, but no one has employees.
Yeah.
Look around, no one has employees.
We all know that. I was gonna say, we're.
So it's like, if you're really gonna, wanna move forward and do something about addressing that. Maybe that's something that's worth, talking about on another level. Why is this a town issue and not a county issue?
Yeah.
Can we drop chemicals via drone?
No.
You can't, we're in the park, but the thing is, seriously, like.
That's what I was thinking.
In all seriousness, like, why isn't this in Essex County, Franklin County, why are we? Messing around with that when it's clearly more of a range, it used to be 2 miles, now it's 10 miles, now the wind's blowing them over.
Typically, it's.
So let's get Saranac Lake involved through Franklin County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Typically, it started because this was the hub of recreational activity.
Sure, and that makes
outside.
sense, yeah.
And just that 90 square miles, if you knew the miles these kids put on.
Yeah.
Just to treat the streams he talked about.
It's a lot of space.
To do it countywide, I can't even.
I don't know,
I can't
like,
even picture that.
my thing's just trying to think of ideas
Yeah.
to rectify the problem, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, it's just,
And
Just an idea.
and it's really not by what John said, with the prevailing winds and everything, it's not an Essex County problem.
It's like, yeah, it's
It's a
it's a
Franklin
problem
County.
in our county, but it's coming from
Right.
another area.
To be completely honest, we're the only one that seems to really, because we are the only ones that care.
So
because
what
it doesn't
wind
have to-
changes to Saranac Lake, is then everyone gonna be, you know, like, right, let's do something now, like what needs to happen
Yeah.
to move
I
forward?
think these conversations, this was the jump off point, because
Preliminary.
have been emailing back and forth for over a couple of weeks now. Like getting him to come do a presentation, because we've all recognized that the public has. This is 2 years now.
Sure.
That we gotta do something, we have to change something up. So that was the first step, is to make the public aware
I
that,
love it.
hey, this is what the program is.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
we haven't had the dialogue yet
Cool.
to say, okay, what are we doing? Cause when it comes to the budget season in the fall, what does he need?
Sure.
Staffing, how do we incentivize it? How much more do we have?
End of February, we only had 4 techs returned.
Yeah, that's what I understand, like,
And thank God 4 showed up,
if
two old ones that.
if I
knew
knew
all
about it, I
this.
might, you know, if it was presented to me as, you know, hey, we're looking for people, this is what we're offering for compensation.
Yeah.
I probably would sign up or inquire about it.
I'm almost thinking I would volunteer on the weekends if
That's
like.
extra money in your pocket and your kids aren't getting bit by bugs.
I think I can't receive a pay from Dunkel, but I would
That's
just
my
like,
main concern.
Yeah,
I would just be like,
we want it to be successful.
The health impact that it's having in our community, like you can't go outside without putting bug spray on.
Yeah.
That can't be good for your body.
cause usually it wasn't even in the village. If you were in the village, you were pretty good, but if you
Yeah.
started to go out into.
Yeah, I remember.
Now, like, I live right off, as I go in my backyard, it's like.
Terrible. It's everywhere.
So I
really, yeah.
I get it, and I'm just like,
A lot of it scientifically has to do with the water just warming up 2 degrees.
yeah.
It gives a longer breeding season,
Yeah.
which means,
These are all things I understand, I'm literally just here
Yeah.
giving my suggestion, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, like, I don't wanna like argue or anything, I just.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Things I gathered from his conversation that I thought were relevant to express with you guys.
yeah,
Now, he was talking about not bringing personnel to some of those like tougher spots to access, is that something they've looked into potentially using technology to assist on? You know, like if you can't send a person back there, can you send some type of a drone with a bunch of.
well, the
you know,
way the
information?
chemical is dispersed, you know, he talked about every foot. You measure a certain distance.
It's-
and
yeah,
got it.
You saw the kid keeping notes,
Yeah, I
He has-
missed the first couple minutes,
he
so
has to regulate the flow.
got
And you
it,
can only put just so much of this stuff in the water.
okay.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty challenging to
When
do
he
without
showed you
person
those
there.
slides of timber all across the brook,
Yeah,
those guys are going up and down. We had 2 injuries this year. One guy sprained his ankle so bad, he was out of the woods for a week and a half.
oh wow,
Went back in with a boot cast on
yeah,
just to catch up.
oh wow,
Anyway, injuries happen every year.
yeah, just floating down like.
And
you
these
said with
guys are
brainstorming.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do have trackers on, so,
Just
you
in
know,
case.
unlike hunting where you don't look for somebody lost for 3 days, we would go look for
Well,
somebody.
you're hunting anyway.
And the thing is, we're talking, you know, a lot of us has been in the, you know, in the high peaks where you're on a trail and you're there early in the year and there's blowdown.
Yeah,
You know, that's one thing, and you go over it, under it, whatever, we've all been there, but this is like, you're bushwhacking anyway.
yeah,
And then you got blowdown.
and that, yeah, which is
You know,
just another
which is,
level,
you know, like Hickey said, I mean, to go from here to that door, you know, may take you 20 minutes or longer because you're going like this or that.
yeah,
But I love your idea about boosting up the marketing to look for people.
Yes.
Like if there's.
You can't get people if you don't advertise or ask for it.
Yeah,
yeah,
You know what I mean, like we can sit here and be like, this sucks, what are we gonna do about it, but like. It seems to me like it's a staffing issue, it's a huge amount of land
yeah.
to cover,
I think it's come to a head because it's the second year where it's been.
short in a row.
The program has been successful, relatively successful for like a decade.
Yeah.
Like last year, I was
Definitely.
like, wow, I was like,
30 years.
yeah, I was like,
More than a
I remember, decade, sorry. I remember it was like a time where I'm just like, you couldn't even play basketball, like when I was 20, like,
No.
did you swarm? And then it was like, that's why I said, is this the golden era is over? Because last year I was like, wow, that was pretty rough.
Bringing back memories.
This is the first, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the second year where like, okay, it's been now confirmed. Are we in a new normal? So we
Every
need-
year is like in Saranac, like,
So that, and we don't wanna use that as a
No, I know.
terrible comparison, to say, we-
Let's put a net up.
but I'm just saying that this is the second year it's been confirmed.
We'd be going. I agree,
Yeah,
clearly, it's like an issue,
That
so.
conversation.
yeah,
Well, thank you for, listening to me about that. The second thing was, I got a letter from Mr. Condon on our boat from GNS, and I wanted to hear what he had to say, and clearly, there's not a lot you guys can do about that, which is understandable.
What about your vote from GNS?
So our boat from GNS, our GNS work boat that we
Right.
use to work on all of these houses.
Yeah,
Got a letter from Condon saying about, I have it on my phone, like,
About
the sale, and we should all be
Oh, okay.
concerned and join his coalition and da.
We shouldn't have went to versus people's personal property.
That was another concern, like, why is someone on my boat, you know what I mean, like, that's illegal, but whatever, I don't care about that, I wanted to hear what he had to say, because it's concerning. As a small business, that we're operating over there, that would mean no more GNS in the lake. Which I think would have a very large impact on the folks that use our services,
I would talk to the buyer.
right? So I know the buyers,
Yeah,
it's
and
more than one of them.
they have a plan
And I'm
about,
sure they'll give me a slip,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's okay, and I agree with it, and I don't agree with that, I think it's fucked up, you know what I mean?
yeah.
But it is what it is, whatever, I wanted to hear what he had to say. I'm glad he brought up the fact that like who's, overseeing things on the lake, and you're like, oh, there isn't one, we need that. I'm mainly here today to apply for the lake constable position. To my understanding, there hasn't been one for the last couple of years.
No,
Richter?
No, that's all.
No, Zach Korak was trying to get in there, or you guys wanted him?
no,
Terry,
it's Terry Bukowski now,
know who that is.
and we have a town pontoon boat that has the logo on it.
Well, I was under the impression that there wasn't a lake constable, and I was gonna
Yeah.
actually apply for that job and this and that.
And listen, I will remember your name because as we look for maybe more awareness, right now. We try to be out on the lake when
I'm
the
out there
weather is,
every night,
when the weather is
every
good.
night, fishing, if it's raining, I'm still out there fishing.
Sure,
If it's gorgeous, I'll probably have a cocktail in my hand going around, like, point being, I'm out there every day and it's,
yeah,
you don't see DEC presence.
no.
Last October, I was assaulted on my boat, thrown off. Swimming for maybe half hour, 45 minutes before someone was able to come along and, come get me, and then when we got back to the marina. Finally, the police show up, so it's kind of like,
that's all.
well, you wouldn't know about it because it's not in the
well,
paper.
I'm sorry that Terry wasn't out there that the day that.
It's not his fault.
Terry did rescue people, he did.
And I'm not saying he doesn't, I just didn't know that person was there, I thought that it was an unfilled position, so.
Yeah,
I was, coming here to apply for that, but. These, safety is a huge concern and,
and that's his primary goal is to
yeah.
educate people on paddle boards and having to have
Yeah.
safety vest
And I just didn't see the presence, wasn't
Yeah.
aware of it, and that's why I was here.
Sure, if you think of it, text me or whatever, and I'll give you his cell phone number, so if it ever comes up, you have a contact.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So, should we think about as far as like maybe an alternate or as like
Well,
we do?
That's what I'm saying,
Well, we
depending on the awareness.
That's right, if we expand the hours,
Yeah,
if we're able to do
And
that,
if you wanna
we
back
got
you
you,
into that.
we got your name.
That'd be great,
Yeah.
I'm open to the idea, I think it'd be a good fit,
and our boat
For
sits
many
right
reasons.
inside the village boathouse.
I got my own boat, you know what I mean, that I can
Yeah,
put in the
Well,
water
they're
whenever.
our boat would make
I
it-
can launch my boat pretty quickly, I don't know, Mr. Condon, but it takes me about 2 minutes. And then, it is what it is, like, it's a luxury having a slip,
yeah,
but that doesn't stop you from driving your boat into the water.
That's what I thought, honestly.
Like, kinda you're saying, it's like,
Faced with
it's a third world problem here, it's like, it's a first world problem.
First world
Like,
problem.
Yeah, first world problem.
sorry, but like.
I've said that
public
phrase
is public,
quite a few
you know,
times in the last couple of years.
So I guess in a sense that too, that if we have, if Brad is
no,
an additional person, that we won't be constrained by a schedule per se. So that would be, right?
Yeah, I live across the street, like it's I'm really close, responsive, all these, I have a bunch of reasons.
yeah,
Letter of recommendations, endorsements and stuff like that, so
Well, you should send it in anyway. You should
I'm
email it to Adrian.
prepared to assume a role like that.
and listen, I know your company is so vital just to keeping our new sewer law on that lake.
I think you guys should hire Bob or Eric to inspect sewer.
Yeah,
call them and be like, we wanna pay you to do this,
Yeah,
because that's fucked up.
yeah.
I seen it all, it's big time.
We've all ridden.
We've all,
So you
we've all
guys
been
know.
out there. We've all been
Like,
out
I
there.
work on them, they call me to fix them, like.
Yeah.
This thing's 15 feet from shore,
Yeah.
wait a second, you know, so it's like.
It's only our drinking water.
It's only our drinking, yeah, exactly, it's a huge issue, so like, you know, I'd like to be more present for these kind of things moving forward. So I can chime in and know what's going on, because there's a lot of rumors that go around, and you don't really know the facts until you show up.
But just circling back, definitely get Adrian's email and your contact information, so then that the board, Derek and the board know that you're available for
I'll
that.
get a sticky.
Okay.
I'll get it.
Cool.
Yeah, email that in.
Yeah, I just, you know, I thought it would be a good fit for me, and I wanna be able to, you know, contribute to the community and blah, blah, blah.
It's hard to turn a liquor people into offer help.
Hey, and you know what, now it's like, you got another person that might be willing to do black flag too, so it's like, you got multiple positions for people working for the town, cause what's black flag? 3 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it is,
From
who knows,
the
you know?
middle of March till the middle of July.
But it's
Sometimes
seasonal,
we-
you know,
Yeah,
like no one's just doing that,
yeah.
you know, so.
Exactly.
And then, well, and I imagine we pay for the certification, yes?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, we do
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, definitely consider
Maybe it
it.
boils down to you do a Sunday loop for us for 7 weeks.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
I'm here to help, I'm available, you know,
Yeah.
I want to be involved,
You say you're available, but I know your workload.
that's like, I'm here, I don't own the company, you know what I mean, so 5 o'clock, I'm done, you know.
Good.
Also, I'll just email you my contact info. Alright, guys.
Say your name and
Brad
where to
Young.
contact you,
What's that?
a way to contact you, like your email.
Yeah, it's bradrude30@live.com is my email address.
Okay,
My cell phone
this-
number is 518-637-2252.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alright, thanks guys.
List now.
It's all right. I'm a resident, I'm not going anywhere, so. Thanks, so have a great evening, guys.
Brad, thanks.
So moved.
Get out of here. Are you done?
Oh, I'm done, yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you here as a person or are you here as
No.
a reporter?
No, I'm here as a person, I'm just back, I was living in Saranac Lake and I'm living back in North Elba now, so.
But it's like you were a reporter, right?
No, I just was inquisitive and a pot stirrer.
No, we just had a lot, just wants to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt dirty if I was gonna come to town board meetings when I was in Harriet Town, so.